You are live now.
Are we live now? Can you hear us, Tron? And anyone else that's lurking in the chat right now? Just give us a yay or a nay on that.
Oh, they can hear us now.
Are you sure?
Yes.
Okay. Well, they better, because we're going to fire into it again.
Yes, we're going to go as if this never happened.
You ready?
No.
You're an ass. Okay, we got a yay from Tron. So, welcome to Digital Fiasco Live. My name's Dandr0id, sitting right next to me as always.
And I'm Jack McBastard.
And we are here to talk about E3 Aftermath.
For the very first time.
Yes. So, if you saw us talking about that before, we were just warming up. So
That's absolutely correct.
But yeah, we're here. We're talking about all the awesome video game news, especially the E3 hangover that we have, because we went for 3 days, covered E3 on camera. It was a fucking ton of fun.
There's a lot of stuff.
Because when we did that before, it was kind of limited in what we could do, but this time we have the professional setup, so we had an absolute blast doing that.
Now Tron is saying we have too much sound. You're just not happy.
It's the excitement out of my voice for the past E3.
First, there's no sound. Now there's too much sound. Tron, you're all over the place.
See, Tron's old man yells at cloud.
I was going to say, got to get your story straight.
Quiet down, you kids.
God damn it. All right. So, in any case, it's been a crazy week. Have you played anything before we get started?
Yeah, actually, it's funny. I've been playing Dragon Ball Legends on my smartphone. So it's just like the little fun tapper game or whatever. But it's a fully 3D like fighting game and everything. And I actually picked up Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2 a while back.
Sure.
And so I was just like, hey, I haven't played this one yet. So I dove in and I started playing Dragon Ball Xenoverse 2.
Yeah, it's a good time killer, right?
And that's the whole thing, is it's one of those things that, as I kind of spoke before, it was always the type of game that I was waiting for because I love the Dragon Ball universe.
Right.
And I love being able to make my own character and kind of affect those timelines and everything. And they've gone in and created this whole, crazy storyline in Dragon Ball Super and in the game. They kind of like mesh well together of having basically this kind of central port of time, and there's all these different timelines.
Sure.
And they're basically policing all these timelines to make sure that they play out the proper way.
Yeah.
So it's like the perfect mix of everything to make it so that they can do whatever the fuck they want and there's no repercussions from it.
I like all the alternate timelines, like how they diverge slightly and how things are affected. It's
exactly. Awesome. And you can just have some fun with some of the enemy characters and just, some of the shit that goes on with it. So, But no, it's just been a ton of fun diving into that one because it's I'd played a lot of Xenoverse 1, and this one is just kind of, it's one of those ones where they've taken a lot of the assets from the first game, but they've just added more to the storyline, more content, and just made it, that much more entertaining.
Tron wants to see Dragon Ball Time Cop.
That's it. Literally, play Xenoverse 2. You literally start out, no matter what character you are, you start out in a costume that has a logo with like 2 arrows that says TP on it because you're Time Patrol. Like that's like you are literally, you are Time Cop. Like that's basically what you are. So yeah, go play either of the Xenoverse games. You'll love it.
Some translation issues there, I think. All right. So here's what I've been playing. After E3, we saw Satisfactory, right?
Yes.
Which was crazy balls out nonsense. So I started playing Factorio again.
I was going to say, you seem to be really on board with that one.
I am super on board with that. Like, I played a lot of No Man's Sky. I played a lot of Factorio. This, it's literally right up my alley, so I can't wait for that.
I was actually shocked by that, because I was just like, because I had always seen Factorio, and I was like, that looks kind of interesting, but I wonder if it's one of those ones that's like a bang your head against the wall simulator, where it's kind of like, it's forever growing, but forever never ending. Like, so it's just like, it's like that paperclip game that you were playing. It's just, it just gets so big and into itself that it's like, it doesn't, nothing happens. It's just more and more of the same, but then you go with the insanity of how big the machine is that you've made.
Well, there's actual missions in Factorio, and I assume it's going to be similar for this, where, and actually I saw literally people from the development team in their Discord listed under their names, showed that they were playing Factorio as well. So obviously they're paying attention to what other people are doing and building on that idea.
I bet you it was one of those ideas that one of the guys had, and they're like, nobody wants to build a nameless factory that doesn't do anything, and then all of a sudden Factorio comes out, they're like, wait a minute.
Does no one
There's something behind this.
Does no one remember the Incredible Machine? I think that's definitely still
That was just a physics puzzler, though.
Hey, no, but that's been around forever, though. There's been so many iterations of that. So I played that for a bit. I went back and I actually started playing RimWorld for the first time, which I've been meaning to do for a long time. Yeah. And man, do I ever have a lot of fun with that. I mean, granted, the graphics are primitive, like, say, for example, like Prison Architect.
Yeah, like we're talking way back in the day for that one.
But I mean, it's not that old, but the graphics are very, what you would call, very indie, very basic. But the gameplay itself is a lot of fun. It's very difficult to manage all of the variables and keep all your people from like either murdering each other or setting your place on fire, or, just being attacked, like keeping all your supplies going. You don't want to starve to death. You want to freeze to death. You don't want to burn to death.
Yeah.
It's crazy. So I had a lot of fun with that again. And I found out something interesting. The Xbox Game Pass, they actually have a $1 trial. I don't know if it's a limited time thing for E3 or what it is.
It probably is.
For $1. I signed up for the PC, and I downloaded State of Decay 2 and Sea of Thieves. So for the next 30 days, I'm probably going to be doing that for a bit. So, I mean, for $1, you can't go wrong.
There you go. You're one of the, 3.5 million?
Right. I'm definitely one of those people that have played State of Decay. I mean, I love the game and all, but, I'd like to at least see how different it is from the original, and for $1.
Now, do you find that it differed a lot from the first one? Did they try a bunch more stuff in it,
mean,
or is it basically just the same game but it looks nicer?
Well, I mean, the original one had a lot of good elements to it. The new one is largely, the big wrinkle is multiplayer, right? Which is something the first game really could have used, and now with that, it radically changes the nature of the game. So I haven't really dived into it into any great detail, because I've been playing RimWorld, but now that I actually have that for the next month, and also Sea of Thieves, because I wanted to try that, but I wanted to wait until the experience was a little bit more fleshed out.
Right
now, they have the Hungering Deep.
I'm sure Sea of Thieves is at least worth $1.
It is definitely. I mean, just for a pirate simulator alone, so that's going to be interesting.
Jack literally bought that for $1.
Yes, I'd buy that for $1. All right, so. Just a couple announcements before we get started. We're not going to have a Triple D this week because I think everyone is either in E3 overload or there's just no fucking announcements.
Yeah.
So who the hell releases stuff at E3 unless they're releasing it at E3?
They're letting people digest all the information and news that came out of E3. So yeah, there are literally no new releases, or not that they've posted anyways.
I'm sure there will be something on Tuesday, but the major announcements, they're not there. So we'll see. But there are a couple announcements. Tomorrow night, both Kelly and Albel are going to be away. So tomorrow will be a special preempted Jack versus State of Decay 2. So I'm trying to get Mad Wildbull to join me on the network, and we'll play it multiplayer.
Yeah.
I got to reach out to him, make sure his timing is going to work. But I would really like to see how that's going to work multiplayer, like from the beginning, just to see. I think it's going to be a lot of fun.
Oh, absolutely.
So we're going to call it...
Bring anyone else into that chaos there.
Definitely.
It's always worth it.
So it's going to be like State of Decay 2, The Legend of Sad Karen's Gold. So there's going to be that. And starting this Wednesday, of course, we have actually a brand new show to add to the lineup. June 20th, the Player's Guide podcast after 5 years. They've been on for 5 years.
I know they've been around for a while. I didn't know it was 5 years, though.
5 damn years they've been doing that podcast, like every other week. They're going to be here weekly on Digital Fiasco on Wednesdays. They're going to be taking over the Doing Stuff is Fun slot.
Yeah.
And it's going to be now Player's Guide Live.
Yeah. And so the lovely folks at home, what is the Player's Guide?
So, hey, welcome to the chat, Rurutu. Welcome back. Player's Guide. It is a ongoing series of podcasts where they discuss the function of narrative in media. And when they say media, they mean both television and movies and games and any other interactive medium. So it's not just in the traditional sense. I guess it could be books, but I mean, all the traditional aspects, anything to do with character development, about recurring plots, about, basically... I believe one time last week they did an examination of Final Fantasy X. The week before they pulled apart Infinity War.
Oh, okay.
I would say the episode before that was 2 weeks before that. On April Fool's Day, they did a straight just praising of all the good parts of Iron Fist. I started listening to it.
How long did that last?
No, see, like for the full hour.
Wow.
So I was sitting there like listening to this, and I'm listening to this, and they're talking about Iron Fist, and I'm waiting for the joke.
Yeah.
I'm like, what the fuck? And I go to the page, and I look at, April 1st. Makes perfect sense. So anyway... So Daniel and Jackson, they'll be here this Wednesday starting at 7 p.m. Central Time, and it will be Player's Guide Live. The start of a brand new and hopefully interactive show.
And a friendship.
Yes. Well, I mean, you already actually, I don't know if you saw it, but Daniel, of course, was nice enough to come in a few weeks back for episode 28 of Digital Fiasco
Yeah,
Live.
it was when you got your replacement Dan.
Indeed, yes. One with a little bit more up top. So he filled in quite nicely there, so I think everyone already knows what to expect from him.
Yeah.
Jackson is also just as sort of congenial, and he is a damn attractive man. I'm not afraid to say that. So.
Well, there you go. So tune in for some beautiful, beautiful men on Wednesday night. But of course, that'll be all the deep dives into kind of gamer and movie and TV stuff. So yeah, that's awesome.
So while we do not have a disc downloads and DLC this week, far be it from me to deny the fans some anti-releases.
So we still got anti-releases, but no releases.
Well,
so
I mean,
this entire week is just anti-release then.
To be fair, a lot of this week has been just, finding out release dates.
Right.
As opposed to having them pushed back. So we had a couple things. Obviously, Kingdom Hearts was pushed back a little, but...
Not by much.
I mean,
or else the fans would have rioted and burnt the studio down.
Considering, I don't think they actually had officially announced a release date, but they said it was going to be this year, and it got pushed back to January.
Yeah.
So
I think that they were probably shooting for December, like the Christmas kind of aspect there, and then said, you know what, and we need that extra few weeks for shipping or whatever the fuck they're doing. So late January.
Nobody's losing any sleep over that.
Yeah.
So Soul Calibur 6...
This one's unfortunate because I am really looking forward to this one.
It's not a huge delay. It's going to be out October the 19th of this year. So that's not a huge delay.
Okay, I can deal with that.
I don't honestly recall when the original release date was supposed to be.
I actually, you know what? I think that they were calling for August or September. So yeah.
Oh, dude. Are they going to have Morgan Freeman do their intro? I hope they're not watching. I swear to God, there's a guy on Fiverr who does a Morgan Freeman impression.
Nice. He's got the market cornered on that.
I don't know how much it costs, but it might be worth it. It's like
that would be amazing.
I'm Morgan Freeman. Welcome to the Player's Guide Live. Something like that.
Yeah.
Come up with a sort of dad humor catchphrase for them. Anyway, Crackdown. Of course, Crackdown 3. We've been waiting for that since basically 2013.
That is so far in the back of my mind now that it's kind of like, okay, it's delayed, whatever.
It has literally become a point of contention for me. I am not going to buy an Xbox One until fucking Crackdown comes out. I'm just refuse. At this point, it's like, it started off like, oh, okay, this will be cool. I'll get this and I'll at least have Crackdown.
Yeah.
And then it was like, okay, well, whether it has Crackdown, oh, there's not a lot for it. And now it's like, wow, maybe I don't need to buy one. And it's like, no, now I refuse to buy one. Where the fuck is my Crackdown?
Yeah, literally just buy the game for PC, and I think you're fine.
I guess at this point, but...
Check for Lance Reddick.
Well, why wouldn't you? I mean, Morgan Freeman is great, but Lance Reddick, he's just cool.
Yeah.
Lance Reddick. So Crackdown, that's delayed till February 2019, no specific date. So I don't know if you can see...
Can we just get like for all of our intros for all of our shows? Can we get like sexy black men to do like all of our intros for all of our shows?
It has to be a black guy to be sexy.
They have the best voices.
I can't dispute
I mean, you look at Lance Reddick. You got Morgan Freeman,
Andre Brower,
Keith David.
Oh my God, Keith David was the best part of the Bethesda conference.
Chris Judge.
They've
got amazing voices. I love it.
Boy.
Yeah, that'll just be our intro, Digital Fiasco, boy.
So, and the weird thing is that all the white guys who are cool, like for their voices, they're cool because they're weird. So you get like Christopher Walken.
Yeah.
You get like who else would be like someone famous for their voice?
Mark Hamill.
Well, I guess that's true, he's definitely weird.
He does the Joker like that. It's a crazy, like insane voice and everything, but it's not a sexy, cool voice.
No,
so
you get Nolan North. I mean, he's not so weird. It's more or less his voice.
He's generic white guy voice. He just gets all the work.
So, yeah, I mean, he's literally his work, his whole... I don't want to go there.
Michael Ironside.
There you go.
Yeah.
See...
him and his robot
John
hand.
Benjamin, definitely. Okay, so fair enough. All right. There, we've done our racial voice actor exploration there. So, yes. But yeah, Michael Ironside definitely has a distinctive voice.
Okay, so we gotta look on Fiverr for a bunch of voice actors now.
I did not like what was it, Blacklist? Splinter Cell Blacklist that he was not used for?
Yeah, that one was bad because it really sucked because I was a big fan of the Splinter Cell series and then all of a sudden Blacklist came out and I was like, what is this?
So here's the deal. We have many pages of news. We're going to blow through this relatively quickly, but we're going to do something new. We're going to do literally all of it in alphabetical order, title by title.
Just because there was so much fucking news that was
shit.
the best way to put it on paper.
I've compiled it. The first thing, by alphabetical order, is Assassin's Creed Odyssey.
Go figure.
So here's the thing. There was some speculation, but Yves Guillemot confirms that Assassin's Creed will not be returning to a yearly release. It's not going to be year by year by year.
That's good.
They're not going to be limited by that. If it happens, it happens.
Yeah.
But, they're not going to say this, but I think what it was like Brotherhood and whatnot. They're using the existing engine, these existing assets.
Yeah.
So they can do...
It's easier to just plug and play at that point.
Right.
With these ones being full AAA, next gen, like all this stuff like that, like it just takes that much longer and that much more talent and that much more money to keep pumping these things out. And then you get a lackluster game and it tarnishes the entire franchise.
Yeah.
As we've seen with Assassin's Creed. I'm glad that it's still here after some of the not so great games that it's put out and some of the content.
So I'm fine with them doing like a couple back-to-back here and there when they can make like an iterative game as opposed to a brand new from the ground up rebuild.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. There are 2 selectable characters. We saw that. They're both the grandchildren of King Leonidas of Sparta. So you can be male or female, however you want. It takes place around the time of the Peloponnesian War, which is 434 BC. So it is actually before Origins, like we said.
Right.
So that's interesting. There's going to be more naval battle, and obviously in the Mediterranean. Ships will have a progression tree like characters, too. So there's going to be a lot more naval battle. It's going to focus, I won't say mostly on that, but a lot more than Origins did, which you had like 2 scenes and they were kind of throwaway.
Yeah, that was basically it.
Because people liked 4.
So with this one, you're basically running that ship from the start of the game to the end of the game, and you want to upgrade it, and that's your baby.
Yeah, it's going to be your ship. Whatever happens, happens. So there will be a tree. They haven't gone into what it actually does for you, but it's supposed to be almost as in-depth as your character tree.
Okay.
So that's something. And there's also going to be large-scale army battles as well, like 100 people at a time.
Oh, really?
Yeah, they showed off a bit of it during one of the sort of sit around the chair interviews, and I think it was with Jeff Keighley or something, and it showed like hundreds of Spartans and whatnot on the beach.
So can I take my Spartans and create a phalanx?
Perhaps.
That would be fucking cool.
It would be. But the whole Spartan kick, and that's exactly what they call it.
Yeah.
Apparently, it can happen to you too. And
oh, really?
Yeah. So be prepared for that.
Can I get a piece of bronze armor that covers me right here with padding behind it, just so
I think
it's the anti-Spartan kick armor?
It's a highly specific piece of armor. Okay, so Ubisoft says, here's a weird one. Ubisoft says they're going to take a much more substantial modern narrative to explore, but at the same time, it's going to be optional.
Okay.
So that's a weird one, and they need to explain that more. I think they'll get more into it. But
explain yourself, Ubi.
Right. So here's what the narrative director, they interviewed her, Melissa McCubry. She says, "We knew how important the modern storyline was to a lot of our fans, and we thought it would be a disservice to completely ignore that. But we also know there's a conflict between those fans and those fans that want to stay in the past forever. So in Assassin's Creed Odyssey, we made it so that if you're invested in the present day, you'll be able to explore it to the extent that you want. But if you're a fan of staying in the past, you'll be able to do that too. So there are options for both." That seems like a bit of a fence-sitting thing.
Yeah, no kidding.
I mean, are they going to spend so much time on a section of the game if you're not going to even explore it?
Yeah, that seems really kind of weak. Because it's if you're one of those people that enjoys like the past sections, which is the meat of the game typically.
I like that, obviously.
Yeah, they've obviously polished that as much as possible. They put as much money and gameplay and talent into that. So yeah, if I'm one of those guys that likes the future or the current gen of what's going on in that, what's to say that they're going to put like almost anything into that if they're just like, oh, this is just optional, don't even worry about it. And then how are you going to update the player on that? Are you just going to give them a text file that says, oh, here's what happened in case you didn't go explore this area or do this thing in the future? Yeah,
I think it's an integral part of the Assassin's Creed storyline that there is a future plot that is occurring, and this is like enables the past, and it sort of puts your information gathering in context.
Yeah, and Tron brings up a good point too. Aren't all games optional?
Ouch. Assassin's Creed loot boxes, that's pretty modern. Ha ha, JS Spring, son of a bitch. David Attenborough. Oh, Rurutu brought up a good point. Going back to the voice acting.
Oh, God, the voice actors, yeah.
David Attenborough. Here is the Assassin's Creed Origins. Anyway, so yeah, it's kind of weird, though. Just as we get a compelling modern-day plot again, they decide to then make it optional. Like, after all of the issues with, like, Unity and Rogue and whatnot. I don't think Rogue even had it, if I'm remembering.
See, yeah, that was like a side story.
No, it still had that first-person nonsense.
what I would like to see them do is that if they're going to do a game that's kind of optional or whatever, release it like a Assassin's Creed 4 versus Rogue, where Rogue was kind of that extra game, came out in the same year. It tells another part of the story, but technically you can continue on with the whole assassin side of things without really worrying about missing much on that fact. So what they could do is they could bring out a fully fledged Assassin's Creed game, and then same year or close to the same year, release something that is in a completely modern setting, explaining that
like entirely.
Yeah.
Huh.
Because that's the whole thing, is going back to Brotherhood and like the Ezio trilogy and stuff like that. All the modern day stuff that you got to do with what's his name?
Desmond.
With Desmond.
Yeah.
Especially when he actually started to act and move like an assassin.
Right.
I fucking loved that.
Yeah, that was the best part of Assassin's Creed 3.
Like it was so fucking good, and I would take a full game of that. Give me a modern day assassin with some of that, you know, kind of Animus Abstergo stuff going on, and explore, like breaking into their laboratories and, you know, finding shit and like that kind of thing. Like give me a full game of that, even if it's like a, you know, it's only a 6 or 8 hour game instead of like a 20 or 30 hour game.
See, I think that's cool too, and I mean that would be interesting. But I honestly, I almost pull back. Like that's going too far. I like having both halves. Like you are the whatever I don't think they have a specific term, but the person that's enabling this exploration to occur, and it's because of your lineage. So it makes that person important. I think that divorcing that entirely from the past, it really kind of takes it out of the whole idea that this is a history that's been going on for thousands of years. But I mean, that would be cool too. I just don't want to lose either aspect of that.
I'm just worried about the series as a whole right now, just because we've got Origins, now we have this one that is, in my mind, my whole idea of Odyssey is that it's the origin of the Templars now.
Which is possible.
Once we have that, it's like, I really hope they have a plan for the end of this game. Like, how we've got like 20 fucking Assassin's Creed games now. They need to start winding it down, or else I'm just not going to give a shit soon.
Yeah, I don't know about that. I think this is going to be like an ongoing thing till people start buying them.
Yeah, they're going to prison break it. And
let's not lose our head. Okay, so your character will have a piece of the Spear of Leonidas, and it is actually a First Civilization artifact, apparently. So they're actually saying that one of the interesting parts about it is that Leonidas, like you, has the bloodline of the First Civilization running through you. So there's going to be a closer connection to the lore of the First Civilization, and it'll explore the themes of free will versus determination, which is like the Assassins versus the Templars.
Right.
So it's going to talk about how that fits into the story of ancient Greece, how it ties into the Assassin's Creed story as a whole. So that's going to be interesting. I think we need to see more of this First Civilization than we have up until now.
Yeah.
Which, like, except for that one thing they had in Brotherhood, I think that video.
You put together the pieces, and you collected all the pieces of the video, basically, and then it played like a 30-second clip of Adam and Eve apparently escaping it or something like that.
And that was like the first time we actually saw it, as opposed to like just the one-sided
See, and I want to experience another moment like that where it was actually like almost mind-blowing seeing that, rather than it's just like I'm almost like have fatigue for the series now, and it's just like, you got to show me something new and exciting, or I'm out.
So also in this one, there's going to be a new interactive dialogue system that gives you more narrative choices, so it's going to be more like a Mass Effect style.
I was literally going to say like Mass Effect.
Well, I mean, you saw the dialogue trees. Right? So, and of course, there's going to be optional romances and things like that too. So, which is kind of weird, like, again, in the context of Assassin's Creed, and you have a character who you are embodying from the future, and the object is to maintain synchronization.
Yeah.
So having choice kind of runs counter to that almost. So maybe that's part of the exploration. Who knows? It'll be interesting at some point if whatever the First Civilization, the technology evolves to the point where you're not so much just re-experiencing the past as you can actively modify the past.
Or that, or it's just you accept the fact that when you're playing it, it's like, this is just what this person would have done, and that's just what happened. Like,
so that was 10 minutes on the very first piece. We're doing great. All right, so Battletoads.
Oh, yes.
Battletoads. They announced Battletoads. That's been rumored for a while.
Right.
Rare studio head Craig Duncan says that Rare isn't actually the ones making the game.
Oh,
so
okay.
So they're going to be supporting the studio that's actually doing it. There's apparently a amazing pitch, they say, quote unquote amazing pitch, from the UK-based team Dlala Studios.
Okay.
So they are going to be the ones primarily developing it with Rare support.
I'm glad Rare's at least in the back seat during this one, rather than just saying, have our license, and then they just farm it out to someone and not give a shit about it. So I'm glad to see that, because even though we didn't see much on it, I'm still excited for it because it's definitely one of those parts of my childhood, and I definitely want to jam on some more of that.
Very much so. Jace Marine says, just go all the way back to the beginning, and that's exactly what I'm waiting for. Is someone they talked about that in, I think, 3, the possibility that eventually they can extend the capabilities of the Animus to actually go all the way back.
Yeah, and again, that's probably when I would get really excited to play, you know, a really big entrance into that series, is to actually be in the first like the first generation or whatever, just to see the technology and interactions and just kind of what the fuck's going on exactly with Pieces of Eden and all that stuff.
So instead of like Assassin's Creed modern day, I want the exact opposite of that.
It's like so far in the past, it's futuristic.
Exactly. This wraps all the way back.
Yeah, it's just cyclical.
If they do some kind of Robert Jordan Wheel of Time bullshit, I am out. I am fucking out. So we saw Cyberpunk 2077.
Oh, yes. I saw it about 20 or 30 times.
Effectively for the first time, right? Aside from that initial teaser trailer, like, what was it, 5
years
ago?
Oh, it was 2012.
Jesus
they
Christ.
showed us that,
So, like, pre-PlayStation 4. So we haven't seen anything. Now suddenly we get this huge info dump. So we're going to see that this is definitely an RPG, but it is being played from a first-person perspective. So it's not a shooter. They've made like great pains to say.
Yeah, because what
like
did they said it's like most things. It's not an action game with RPG elements. It's an RPG with action elements.
Right. So immediately, of course, the internet being the internet, there were some people who were irritated. So they say that unlike all the Witcher games, like what CD Projekt Red is literally only known for.
Yeah.
So they were expecting a third-person point of view. They say it's going to be less immersive because you can't see your character. You spend all your time building in your character creator. They say it's going to break immersion, just having like a blank template in front of you. So that said, CD Projekt Red was clear to say that you're still gonna see your character during cutscenes and conversations.
See, and that's fine. At least I get to see them interacting, and you still get to see your character outside of that.
And when you're driving vehicles, that's all gonna be in third person.
Right.
So that's good. They say, this is the quote, "First person absolutely makes sense for us because our company has always been about creating high-quality role-playing games, and only by using first person for this game, we've been truly able to achieve a very immersive experience." So it literally, some of the fans are saying, oh, it breaks immersion, and that's literally what they're saying the first-person point of view gives you.
Yeah.
Which I can see, right?
It's first person. You were supposed to be that person seeing through their eyes.
So, I mean, you think about all those first-person storytelling experiences like the modern Fallouts, like BioShock, like Deus Ex, like Skyrim, like fucking Half-Life.
Yep, exactly.
Like the game that is known, or effectively known as the best storytelling experience in history, Half-Life 2,
See, and I'm glad they're at least breaking that a bit, and you can see yourself in cinematics and stuff, because Half-Life is great for that immersion, but when you make a character, you like to see them actively doing stuff kind of in front of the camera, and as well as you being first person to them.
Yeah, and you get the same thing like in Fallout 3, like in VATS.
And they're talking about ridiculous Assassin's Creed games in the chat there. I can't even say that one that Janus Marine...
What is it? Australopithecus afarensis?
It's a Velociraptor Assassin's Creed. Just would it even have a hidden blade, or does it just use its claws and jump from a rooftop?
They extend like a cat's claws, I guess.
Yeah, it's like shing and
snicked.
Yeah.
There you go. That's now Tuesday's conversation next week. All right, so the demo movie. This is interesting. People were thinking that this was a pre-rendered trailer. All of that was running in real time.
See, and I'm glad to hear that, because I'm like, I hope the game looks like this.
Yes, it was running on a real build of the game in real time, and the demo is going to be back at Gamescom 2018. Although they're not gonna like redo a brand new trailer, they're gonna like be able to change elements to prove that it's running in real time.
Right.
Like camera angles.
They'll do one of those
like
it'll be playing and all of a sudden it'll stop, do that camera spin like bullet time kind of thing to show it's all rendered, it's all there.
Like actually, Guerrilla made a point of doing this just before the release of Killzone 2.
Right.
After that,
I absolutely remember
bullet demo.
Yep.
And you could download it and actually slow down and zoom in and do the whole thing. Because after all the fiasco, no pun intended, all the fiasco of the pre-rendered trailer at E3, like they had a lot to live up to, and I think honestly they hit their mark and then some.
Absolutely.
So that's going to be kind of what we're going to see at Gamescom. The game is still going to be released for current gen consoles. So it's PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It runs on the next iteration of the Red engine, which is like the Witcher engine. So it's Red Engine 4.
You know what? It kind of sucks that it's still a couple years out at least. But I'm kind of glad that it is, because by then I can afford to buy a brand new rig with a 32-inch wraparound screen and a brand new keyboard and mouse, like, just so I've never done this before. I've never bought a console for one game or anything like that, but I'm going to buy a brand new rig just to play Cyberpunk.
Well, I mean, here's kind of the irony. The best known iteration of the pen and paper game, like there's base Cyberpunk, and then the best known iteration was Cyberpunk 2020.
Yes.
So it'd be funny if it actually came out in 2020.
I wouldn't be surprised if they were like, hey, we got this gigantic project here. Let's just start it right now, because we'll probably get it out by 2020.
I mean, that's a long way to go for a joke. CD Projekt Red is all I'm saying. All right, so there's supposed to be...
they really want that Velociraptor Assassin's Creed. Even Necro wants it. Like, sign me up.
Yeah, I think you might have trouble justifying the whole bloodline aspect.
Okay, I accept that he might have had a sex with a velociraptor somewhere along the way.
That is not how DNA works, my friend. Not how DNA works at all. So anyway, and also, like, ow. There's some other practical sort of considerations. Okay, so there's supposed to be a ton of expansive side quests, and they want to tell really interesting stories, not just on the main storyline, but also outside of them. So, like, Witcher level
Well, yeah,
side
and they
quests.
have an entire world to do that in.
And they also want to have, like, just walking around, there's going to be visual stories that'll play out, kind of like narrative elements or the mini side quests you see in, like, Red Dead Redemption, that kind of thing.
Well, I guarantee it'll be one of those things you're walking down the street and you'll hear people talking about news that just happened, or the big broadcasts on big screens up in the air and everything.
Random gunfights, you know, just people talking.
Somebody stole my purse and they're running down the street. And
and then you shoot that guy and take her purse anyway.
And Maim Kill Destroyers just joined us, and he likes your shirt.
Why, thank you. It is a beautiful sort of... I like the color, the blue with the red. It is classic Cobra Commander.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Cobra! All right, so... level designer Max Pierce, he talked about the improved dialogue system and how it will interact with one of the main stats of the game, which is the cool stat.
Oh, yes, of course.
So, for example, it's going to unlock certain things you might not have been able to do, certain options when dealing with situations. Or another example, the vendors you have, the Ripper Dogs. If you have that cool and street cred level, that might bring down certain weapon prices or unlock certain weapons you might not have had there. So it's an integral part of it. It's also a throwback to the original tabletop game as well.
I love that they actually kept that in. I really dig that.
Like, why would they change the name? Like, the stats were such an iconic part of the pen and paper. I think keeping that really brings the fans in.
Yeah.
So they say, so we're thinking of, forgive me for saying this, cool ways to use it. It's going to be an important thing for sure. It's definitely a way to help interact with people. They're saying they're still in the process of designing it, but it's gonna feel that continuous flow. It might unlock options the dialogue system you might not have had. The Witcher had a really good one as well, they say, and the team, again, they're looking constantly at taking it up a notch and improving on that experience.
Yeah. Well,
so I think you saw that, right?
It's basically your charisma level, but it's cooler.
Cool. I mean, it's specific to that game.
Yeah,
so.
absolutely.
Yeah. But let's see. So here's an interesting thing. We talked about this last week, would have been last Sunday on the stream. Apparently, multiplayer is still part of the mix.
Yeah, but I think what they were saying is that it may be added after. Yeah, like it's not in the forefront. Right. It's kind of not an afterthought per se, but it's not their core game.
They say it's still in R&D. This is from CD Projekt Red's quest designer Patrick Mills. So he said, he was talking to Eurogamer in an interview, he says, we have multiplayer and R&D, but the game we're shipping to you, the game you're going to buy, is the single-player experience. And that's really what we're concentrating on it now. What we want to nail down before we start looking at any of these other things. So he says, maybe, no promises, nothing at launch. So,
yeah, and guaranteed it's going to be one of those things they're going to take their sweet time developing it to make sure that it's implemented properly, that it makes sense in the universe.
Yep.
And I'm really hoping it comes down to, hey, you can do some of these missions 1 to 4 players, and that's it. Like, that's all I want out of it if they're going to do multiplayer.
How about that Night Trap for Switch? Yeah, that's actually probably a better use of the technology than making a limited run version for PS4.
I do like how they showed it, though, that they had that guy back in like 94 or 95 talking about it. So you'll never see Night Trap on a Nintendo system. Ching! And then it just plays the trailer for it.
As far as I'm concerned, the smaller the screen, the better it's going to look.
Absolutely, yeah, for that game.
All right, Dead or Alive 6.
Wow, I'm surprised that's on there.
Just a couple of things. It's going to run at 60 frames per second on PS4, Xbox One, and PC.
It's perfect for a fighting game.
Yeah, new combo and special attack systems, yada, yada, yada. They're going to be for casual players. They're not considering a Switch port due to technical considerations.
I like that term, technical considerations.
Well, I mean, you have Doom on there, you have Wolfenstein on there. I think their technical considerations are it's a Nintendo console and Dead or Alive.
Yeah, but you also have really, not hardcore, but you have some very questionable anime games coming to Switch. Actually, in North America, the ones where you're actually just touching boobs and jiggling them and slapping thighs and stuff like that. So
maybe it's because they can only do 30 frames.
That's exactly what it is. And I think that they wanted to keep that 60 frames a second kind of moniker, and they were going to go with it.
It is key.
Because you look at something like Doom or Wolfenstein, sure, they have 60 frames or whatever, or 59 point whatever, but they're not up to... Oh,
Jesus Christ, thank you, Chicken Man 664.
Oh, thank you very much for the follow.
I
was going to say you updated the graphics.
I did indeed.
So I was like, what is that sound?
No, that's like, well, now that we have some Super Smash Brothers news, I figure it was only appropriate.
Hey, it works.
Indeed. So thank you for that, Chicken Man 664.
Yeah, thank you very much for the follow.
All right, so we're talking about...
so I was just saying, like, you see those games, they run great on there and that, but when you have one screen on a, PS4 or PC next to the Switch, they've definitely taken some stuff out of that game to make it run that way. Whereas I don't think,
but still,
Dead or Alive, they don't want to make, they don't want to cut anything out of their game, especially boob physics.
that is pretty key. All right. And Owen, thank you very much for the host.
Oh, thank you very much for the host too.
We appreciate that hosting. All right, so Ruru2 thinks they can get away with 720p 60 frames per second. I don't think so on a Switch. I don't think they could even push that.
It's questionable at best. And
is there any game that runs at 60?
60 frames on the Switch?
Yeah.
There's a few, but they're really basic games.
Well, 1-2 Switch might.
Yeah, something like that, because they're pre-rendered videos.
Okay. Moving on. That was way too much time for just Dead or Alive. Death Stranding. I'd like to say we have a lot of additional information, but,
Oh, there's a lot of information. We just don't know what the fuck it means.
That's right. I mean, we might have everything we need, but who the fuck knows? So Death Stranding, there's only going to be one playable character, and it's going to be the character Sam, which is Norman Reedus' character.
Okay.
So that's it. We're going to have combat, and the character will be able to kill enemies, and you saw in the trailer he had a gun, he shot some people.
Yeah.
But...
it's going to have a weird mind laser thing or something like that.
And there was weird shadow zombie umbilical nonsense. I mean, it's Kojima. Who the fuck knows?
Oh, Necro, it'd be up-res to 60 frames a second.
Oh, ouch.
No, it's you're right. It would just be video. I honestly don't know. Maybe you can do a quick research on that or something. I don't know if anything actually runs at 60 frames a second on the Switch.
I doubt it. So anyway, like Metal Gear, it's going to have a variety of other tactical options. So combat is not your only solution. You actually go through the game without doing combat at all.
I was going to say, they obviously have some kind of stealth element to it. So it probably has to do with stats and equipment and how well you can sneak past whatever the invisible things are that you're fighting.
Yeah, or like those weird things that Mads Mikkelsen had in the sewer.
Yeah, like everything's cabled to him, or umbilical cords and stuff like that. I don't know.
It was a little Chronicles of Riddick for my liking. I don't know about you, but I'm glad of this because there is nothing in that game that I've seen so far that I want to go anywhere fucking near.
Yeah, that is true.
Let alone, get angry at me by shooting it. That just seems like a bad idea.
They've got hands for feet.
Yeah. So he says you will be able to shoot your way through the game, but much like Metal Gear, it's not the ideal option.
Right.
So yeah, that's
all right. Are you going to be satisfied if you could choke out one of the goo monsters or something like that?
I mean, I'm not going to say that I won't use throwing knives once in a while. I'm just saying.
Colonel, what am I doing in this upside-down universe?
I'm sorry, Snake. This is the wrong game.
Oh, you better believe they're going to make that joke.
Did I say snake? I meant snack. I can't, because that's copyrighted. Anyway, so Kojima research.
Yes, Mame Kill, you are the only one that doesn't give a shit about it, because you didn't like Metal Gear and you don't care about artsy games. So
here's the thing. Oh, and thanks for the cheer as well.
There's a cheer there too.
Yes.
Did we?
It's a very small cheer.
Oh, okay. All right.
Not to diminish the strength of your cheer, I'm sure.
We have settings on the computer for it.
That's
so
correct.
Yeah.
Anyway, it's just a spam protection thing so that people don't come in and cheer one over and over again.
Right.
Saying racist things.
Because we've seen that before. Not on our stream, but
obviously not saying you're racist, but that's why it's there. So, anyway, Kojima researched the goal of the game is not to fight the enemy head to head and defeat them. The goal is to reconnect the world whatever the hell that means.
It's all those babies and umbilical cords.
So what we do know is the game is going to have acid rain. It's going to have toenail ripping action. It's going to have a lot of climbing and walking.
Toenail ripping minigame. Mash X to rip toenail.
Oh my god, I cringed so fucking hard.
And that's the whole thing, is it looks so good that you actually have to kind of turn away while it's happening because it looks fucking real.
Oh, so very wrong. Yeah. So very wrong. So no, I can't say that I'm excited for it. It's interesting because it's Kojima, but I don't know anything about it yet.
I'm excited for it. You know what, the main takeaway from this main kill is that your average person that loves Kojima knows that this is at least going to be a solid entry in like as a game, but also it has Kojima's touch all over it because he doesn't have a studio above his head telling him what he can and can't do now. Right. This is Kojima's own studio, so he is going crazy with this and making it as artistic and weird and fucked up as he wants to. Yeah. And I dig that because when you look at something like Death Stranding versus 90% of what you see at E3 or just in gaming in general these days, it stands on a fucking pillar this high compared to everything else because I can at least say that is different and that is interesting. Yeah. It's not just 10 flavors of the same thing.
We've talked about this before, and I honestly am concerned that unfettered Kojima doesn't necessarily result in a good game. It definitely results in a weirder game. Yeah. But I guess we'll have to see, like, is it actually going to develop? Like, if he is completely free to do what he wants, is it going to produce a marketable product?
I think ultimately what it comes down to is I think he's far enough along in his career and his life and what he's created so far that he understands what a game is and what makes a game fun. Yeah. And at least the proper structure and you know, thereafter to make a playable, interesting game. Whereas if you gave him this kind of freedom to do whatever the hell he wanted 20 years ago, yeah, we might have gotten this weird fucking game that was almost impossible to play. But I don't think that's what we're going to get this time around because he has that pedigree of all those Metal Gear games under his belt.
We'll see. I'm definitely going to give it a chance, but I have some concerns, we'll say. Yeah. Because unfettered Kojima, like, who the fuck knows where that's going to end up. So anyway, multiplayer is obviously still a thing. They talked about it, but they're keeping the details as to what exactly it means a secret. They asked, he wouldn't say a damn thing. But Kojima, some of the things he said about the game are fundamentally weird as well. So he literally name-checked Super Mario because he is trying to create a feeling in the game that is the opposite of Super Mario.
Well, he's pretty much there.
Okay, but let me qualify that a bit. So unlike Super Mario, right, you think of Super Mario World, which is probably my favorite Super Mario game, right? It's all about like free-flowing action. You're jumping, you're running, you have your cape. It's very fluid. It's very dynamic, and you feel free.
And I guarantee there's also the fact that it is left to right, and there's always an end. It's like a level, and there's an end. A level, and then there's an end.
Some of them you go up, but I mean, for the most part, right? So he says Mario has freedom of movement and abilities, and Death Stranding, he says the character can trip on stones, he has to be careful about his balance when walking, and he can be washed away by a river. So basically, he wants to sort of instill upon the player that you are mortal, you are fallible, this world is dangerous, you could be fucked at any minute.
See, and I love that. I love environmental interaction, whether it be in a fighting game where you can like punch someone through a wall or something, or stuff like that, like stuff you don't even expect where you're running along in a game and all of a sudden, even if it's a quick time event or something like that, you can just naturally like trip on something in the environment and stuff. So in this game, there are going to be those times where, oh shit, these invisible monsters are snapping at me or something like that. You go to run, you turn, and all of a sudden there's something out of your camera view you didn't see, and you trip over it. It just makes that like escape sequence that much more interesting and exciting.
But as long as he says you have to be careful about your balance, I don't want to see a situation where we're having like Uncharted 1.
Yeah, no, none of that. None of the like give a little meter at the bottom. You have to keep the ball in the center. I hope it's none of that. I'm hoping that it fits well with the game and it makes sense as to like what you're doing. Where it isn't that you are. Yeah, because you can go too far in the other direction where you're constantly monitoring what you're doing and what your environment is doing, and then you're almost taken out of the game because you're so worried about tripping over every little rock and bumping into every wall and whatnot.
The game is Yoshi on shrooms? Seriously?
Oh no, saying Norman Reedus is Yoshi carrying around Baby Mario.
I guess that's so true. And Chicken Man is going to go. All right, see you later, Chicken Man. Thanks for coming by.
Yeah. Hope you enjoyed it.
He says, Tron says, play a Mario Fallout crossover. Mario comes out of the pipe into a post-apocalyptic mushroom kingdom. He has to explore different worlds, getting ancient power-ups to fight a power-suited boomer. Oh, Bowser, excuse me.
Yeah, and you know what the funniest part is? If you Google it right now, you type in Super Mario Fallout, and there are 2 amazing cosplayers that do a Mario and Luigi Fallout version cosplay. Absolutely spectacular. He's got a big boy with a bullet bill on it, and they've got like giant pipe wrenches and
Jesus Christ.
and they're all like dirtied up and everything like that. They look like they're straight out of Fallout.
Okay, but don't Google it too much because, Rule 34. So Kojima, interestingly enough, Kojima has dropped the possibility that this may be his last project. He might be done. And I think that's really weird, building a new studio with brand new branding and selling a bunch of merch and then fucking quitting.
This is his swan song. He's putting his all into it.
He's saying that he mentioned this when he's talking about Lindsay Wagner, of course, the original Bionic Woman. So he says, I was thinking it may as well be my last project. I don't know, so I want to make it count. And the person that has influenced me most and that I look up to most is Lindsay. So he kind of dropped it in casual conversation. He didn't explain to it. He didn't go back to it at any point.
Mm-hmm.
So it might just be a translation error. It might be, he's done. Or maybe it's just, Kojima-san doesn't want to make Metal Gear anymore. Like, just he's burned out after so many years. Needs some time away.
And I would be okay with that, but what I would want him to do is after like this gigantic game that he made, I would love to see interesting small indie projects from him and his company. Just like almost Snatcher like little experimental things and whatnot, and a Snatcher 2. Because I mean that's point and click. Those games are way easier to make.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
outside of the narrative, I mean it's he has
a knack for it. Get that and Police Knots. Both of those were amazing games. All right, Devil May Cry 5.
Yes, please.
So, it's going to be directed by Hideaki Itsuno, who worked on Devil May Cry 3, 4, and the special edition of 4 that came out for the PS4 and Xbox 360. It actually apparently started development immediately after the special edition, and Itsuno was told by Capcom execs that his team will need to find a new look for the game, which is why all your characters are photorealistic looking, and it's a much more flashy sort of modern look to it. So that's interesting.
And Nero's got a robot arm.
Yes, Nero has a robot arm now because it was his devil arm he had to cut off.
Yes.
So there's going to be 3 playable characters in the game.
Oh, okay.
They haven't told us who the hell that is. I'm assuming at some point Dante has got to be in there.
Oh, well, they showed him in the trailer, so he's going to be playable at some point.
He better be. It'll
probably be one of those things where you finish the game and then you get to play through as him with like extra missions or something like that.
As long as it's not like a Raiden Snake situation.
No, I don't think it will be.
But Itsuno says he's confident that what he's made will exceed even the fans' expectations.
I mean, from the trailer alone, it looks like a proper Devil May Cry game. So it looks like they're definitely at least in the wheelhouse of what they did before, and I'm definitely looking forward to it.
As long as it's not going to be one of these situations where it's like, all the shit that happened at the end of Devil May Cry 2 is like, wow, a lot of stuff has changed since the incident. Oh, we don't like to talk about that. They can't just gloss over it. I need to, how are they going to resolve this? Like, if they're not going to reboot the series completely, then how are they going to, pick up and move on?
I think they just kind of accept that 2 doesn't exist. I mean, they don't even talk about it.
I'm not sure that that's the best answer, but it might be a good answer. I don't know. What is this? Luigi. They're still on this Fallout Luigi crossover. Okay, so it's supposed to be early 2019 for the PS4, Xbox One, and PC. It's still being developed on the RE engine, which is, I think, the Resident Evil engine, and it's going to be published by Capcom. So hopefully that will be early 2019.
Sure hope so.
Yep. Well, I say early 2019, but I want early.
Like January early.
So Dying Light 2. And I loved Dying Light, the original one.
Yeah, so you, I think it was, who was also losing their shit on this one? It was...
I don't know who else in the stream, but I know that my friend Steve, one of the 2 Staves.
Yeah.
He was a big Dying Light fan, I'm sure.
Oh, and I think Keith was a big fan of this one, too.
Yes.
Yeah, that's who it was. Yeah.
Yes.
When this came up and they were showing and stuff, you guys were going nuts for it.
Oh, yeah, man, I love the first game. So apparently it is 4 times bigger than Dying Light. Now, when I say it's 4 times bigger than the Dying Light, it's not just the main game. It's also that huge The Following expansion.
Yeah.
Those 2 put together, it's 4 times bigger than all of that.
And
that is big.
Did they say that is kind of square miles or square kilometers, or is it bigger in because they have a lot of verticality in this game too, because they have the big cities and stuff like that.
There was a lot of it in the first one too. I'm assuming they're going to try to incorporate like vehicle, we haven't heard anything about this, but vehicles were huge for the following. It made a huge difference. So I'm thinking maybe they incorporate it right from the beginning on this, like they did in Dead Island and Dead Island Riptide, back when they were doing that series for another company. The other big thing about Dying Light was, of course, the day-night cycle. Right? Yeah. How the zombies were more dangerous at night.
Way more dangerous at night.
So here's the thing. They're actually going through a massive change for the day-night cycle. This is according to the creative director, Adrian Suzuki. They didn't want to reveal much about it, but they gave a couple of hints. They say the night isn't going to be as restrictive as it used to be. Because, I mean, in the first game, at night, you wanted to get the fuck out.
You were fucked. The zombies would just chase you down and maul you.
Unless, like, deep into the end game, you could survive, but it wasn't a comfortable sort of survival. So he says, the night isn't as restrictive, but it opens additional opportunities for combat quests and traversal. So certain parts of the cities, there's going to be more enemies. Other parts of the cities are going to be settled by human factions, so some of the streets and neighborhoods are clear.
Right, because they're, like, patrolled and guarded and whatnot.
And the infected themselves live sometimes in their own shelters, so you can find items there that are more difficult to find like anywhere else in the game, so like rare objects. And oftentimes you wait till nighttime when they come out and you raid their lairs while they're gone, which is a pretty risky proposition.
No kidding.
If it's anything like the first game. So, and since the buildings are supposed to be damaged, a lot of the time you're going to need your parkour to even get up onto the roof to kind of climb down. So, I mean, it's interesting. We'll see. But the goal of the change is to stop the nighttime from being like a hard stop for your activities. It gives you more to do.
And that's smart too, because you're basically kind of neutering your game a little bit, because you have this section of the game where all of a sudden gameplay just stops, and it seems kind of counterintuitive.
Yeah, well, I mean, it was interesting in the first game because it made it like it was like a first-person action game, and then at night stealth became a major element, whereas in
but you were stealthing back to where you didn't have to deal with anything, or
to someplace safe, right? Or you just wanted to stay alive until sunset. Like, it's all a major part of this. I'm not sure that neutering nighttime as like a dangerous element of the game is really the best way to go. I'm sure
they've expanded on it. It's still dangerous, but it makes sense that you can still do shit at night, whether it be stealthing around, finding items,
more
probably
options.
Certain missions that can only happen at night, that kind of thing. They've given you options at least, rather than it's, oh, you're fucked if you're outside at night.
Okay, let's talk about Fallout 76.
All right,
this was a huge thing. And 90% of the questions
probably one of the biggest things going on during E3.
Yeah, and most of the questions we had going into it, we got very few actual answers about. So it's set in 2102. It's 25 years after the nuclear war on Operation Anchorage, the whole bit. It's going to be multiplayer, and they say you can play it as a solo experience, but it's kind of in the same way you can play Destiny as a solo experience.
Yeah.
Because all the other players are going to be in the game if you're solo or not. So they say eventually, post-launch, they're going to have private servers, but it is not a main focus, and they don't give a time frame. So it's going to be between 24 and 32 players, depending on how the tests go.
Yep.
There's going to be an emote wheel and voice chat in the game to communicate with people. There will be dynamic weather that will affect a player, including radiation storms. Radiation will actually cause player mutation.
Oh, okay.
So when you've absorbed too many rads, you'll actually cause mutations, some of them beneficial, some of them hazardous.
Oh, so you can become a superhero because of radiation.
Yeah, so they're going to unlock traits both with pros and cons, and some will impact gameplay and some will be just visual.
Okay.
Temporary, they're temporary afflictions, but and they can be cured, but they can also be made permanent if you want them to be.
I was going to say, yeah, what if I get a cool tentacle arm or something? I want to fucking keep that shit.
I don't feel it when I jerk off. It's my favorite tentacle porn ever. Anyway, here's kind of where we get into the danger zone. Leveling up will unlock perk cards, of which you can only have a limited number active at any given time. And that strikes me as like Battlefield and Call of Duty perks. And
why did they have to use the term cards?
I know, right? The cards...
That's like one step away from loot boxes.
Because here's the thing. The cards can be sold to other players or shared with your friends in your party. So it's going to be part of the commerce system in the game. That already kind of starts to raise danger flags.
Yeah, because they can easily sell those in a pack.
Yeah, and there's going to be some kind of a marketplace, apparently, that players can put it on so that other players can buy them and whatnot.
Right, yeah, an auction house or something.
So, again, here's where we start veering into the danger territory. There's not going to be any NPCs in the game.
Okay, yeah.
So they're talking about the rich story, the rich Fallout history and whatnot. All of that is going to be coming through broadcasts and audio logs. So there's not going to be any NPCs in the game at all, just other players. Quests you're going to get through holotapes, notes, or mission terminals. And that's the only interaction you have with anyone not attached to a person. That concerns me. When you open your map, you're going to see every other player that's in the game. You're going to know exactly where they are at all
really?
times.
That's kind of weird. I figured you should at least have some tech for that or something.
Yeah, like some kind of, like, if they're in range of something or they're visible by someone in your party.
They're shooting, that kind of thing.
Something. So for better or worse, you'll know where everyone is at all times. Activating nukes, we talked about that during the stream. If you have a nuclear capability, if you nuke an area, the area's fauna and flora will become irradiated and spawn higher level drops and materials. And that fallout will eventually dissipate, so it will go back to a normal state.
Right.
Now, they have not talked about the effect of nukes on settlements, if it's going to cause damage, if you have to start again, like if you're going to just harvest all the resources, how it works. So, Senior VP Pete Hines, he says that there's going to be some kind of protection against griefing, but they didn't specify exactly how it works. Apparently, you can't be harassed by someone who keeps chasing you down in the world and keeps killing you over and over again. So I don't know if it's going to be a timer, it's going to be a flag, it's going to be like a PvP thing you activate or deactivate, but apparently the game does not allow that to happen to you, which is good. Apparently there will be wanted levels.
That's actually what Mamekill just brought up there. So it's PvP. Right. You'll be trying to do some quests, and 3 trolls will just keep running around killing people.
Right. So apparently that they're going to have some kind of protection.
I think they kind of have to at this point, because they know day one there's going to be tons of people just trying to do that.
Yep. And there's going to be wanted levels for aggressive players as well. So kind of similar to what you see in GTA Online, I guess. Hines did confirm that PvP death carries no penalty, so players can't loot your corpse. None of your progression is lost, and your inventory will stay otherwise exactly the same.
Okay, so that's good, at least.
Yes. But again, my question is the settlements, which is really going to be where you invest a lot of your time.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah. So Todd Howard, who is the director, he has some additional info. He says there's a way you can decide to do PvP, and we're currently balancing the incentives for someone who wants to be very aggressive to people and those who want to ignore it. So they're
have a separate server for them.
Yeah, I mean, that's the easy way.
You want to play hardcore mode? Right. You log into this one. You want to play PvE or whatever? Just log into this one.
So we don't want it to be griefy in any way, he says, and we'll dial it in so that people can say, look, I don't want to deal with that. Private servers would be a good way to do that as well.
Yeah, that would be a great way to do it.
Yeah. There will be a version of the VAT system, but it's not going to slow down time.
Right, because it's kind of hard to do that with active players.
Yeah, it's just basically allowing you to pick parts of the body, and that's what you'll aim at. It's in real time, and apparently it works great, according to Todd. Mods, which is interesting. Apparently, they are definitely going to allow mods.
Modding community is huge, and there are a lot of fans there. So,
but post-launch. Mm-hmm. But still, for the fact that this is seeming to be a games-as-a-service game, mods would seem counterintuitive.
They're probably limited to what they are, just some visual pieces or that kind of thing.
Yeah.
They're not going to be mods that completely change and break the game mechanics.
We'll see. They've also claimed, and by the way, this was in the documentary that Danny O'Dwyer had put out shortly after the announcement.
Okay.
He says there's going to be free DLC for years, microtransactions are going to be cosmetic only, and any cosmetic enhancements can be earned through gameplay as well. And it releases November the 14th.
Yeah, well, that's good. Because that kind of puts that away that they're not going to sell cards. Because those wouldn't just be cosmetic; those are game effects.
But you can earn them in the game too, so it's going to be it could be game affecting. Who's to say? But they did say cosmetics only for microtransactions.
Yeah, so
who's to say?
That at least puts my mind a bit at ease for that. They're not going to sell game-breaking, pay-to-win bullshit.
Theoretically. Yeah.
Unless a cowboy hat is so distracting that it's game-breaking and game-winning.
My internet connection is real-time VAT, says Tron. It's true. It's true. I've seen it.
I was going to say, yeah.
I've seen it.
I've seen internet like that before.
Friday the 13th.
Oh, but Maim Kill Destroyer wants to talk about Gears of War Funko Pop.
Let's not. I mean, we could talk about Gears of War Tactics being a PC game instead of actually being a mobile game.
Yeah, which is much more exciting.
I was already excited, but I'm very, very excited now. Friday the 13th. And we're not even 2G, but we're not going to talk about Gears of War because they haven't really told us anything other than it's going to be a lot more open world, but it's not going to be open
Friday
world.
the 13th.
Friday the 13th, yes.
Was that at E3?
It was, theoretically, but here's the thing. Gun Media, they are not making any more content for Friday the 13th.
Okay.
Because the original screenwriter, the original scriptwriter for Friday the 13th is suing the company for rights to Friday the 13th. Because apparently...
Didn't they get over this? Like, didn't they have licensing for this?
No. So apparently it's going to affect all future Friday the 13th property till they work out this legal thing. So it's all on hold.
Wow.
So, so he was suing the company. Apparently he wasn't working for them at the time.
Yeah.
So he has the right to challenge ownership of Friday the 13th as a franchise.
But wouldn't the company have a licensing and he wouldn't have squat because he doesn't work for them anymore?
Well, that's just it. He wrote it apparently when he wasn't working for them, so he owns the rights to the plot.
Oh, so he sold it to them basically, or I guess in a way they.
Yeah,
it was through them. Because that would be like me saying like, oh, well, I wrote Jurassic Park, but then I quit, but I still want to claim rights to it.
But no, it's like if he wrote the original script and while he wasn't working for them, if he didn't sell rights to the IP, like there's a legal argument to be made. I don't know.
Whatever. They'll just pay him a certain percentage of whatever, and they'll keep making them.
So the company that made Friday the 13th is countersuing him, and it's just going to be in legal limbo forever.
Yay.
So all of the upcoming DLC that they had promised is now indefinitely on hold. So that's Uber Jason, the Grand Old Map, Jason Killpacks, clothing emotes, and the new counselors. So we'll see how that plays out. Of course, now is the Goats of Tsushima.
Oh yes. Oh my God.
Ghost of Tsushima. Yeah, seeing that in action for the first time. Oh my God, that was amazing.
Mind blowing. Like again, as I'd said, kind of at the end of our E3 stream, basically games of the show for me, Cyberpunk 2077 and Ghost of Tsushima. Like just mind blown when I saw that game. I knew it was going to be good looking.
Yeah.
I knew it was a samurai epic and stuff like that. But watching it in action and just watching the love and care in cinematic, like the cinematography in a game, which is you rarely get to say. There's very rare occasions where you actually get to see proper cinematography in a game. Just blown away by that. They clearly had a lot of love put into that. What are you doing?
Making edits for time.
Oh, okay. Okay, so clearly we're not talking about Gears of War Funko Pop then.
No, Funko Pop, that is literally the headline and the content.
All right.
Ghost of Tsushima, they wanted to make sure that people were not expecting this to be a Souls level of difficulty. It is not a Souls game. It's going to have variable difficulty. You can choose it. He says the story is about Jin, which is Jin Sakai, the main character. He's a stoic samurai who also knows compassion.
Was he a real character from the past? Or
apparently this was a historical event.
Like right. That's why I was wondering.
Right, but they're not using actual historical figures because literally there are descendants of these people still today that remember this and commemorate it year after year. So they're specifically not using actual historic figures, but it's inspired by them.
Okay.
So anyway, it's like an open world game. He's trying to save this island from the Mongol invasion. So he says it's going to be about Jin being forced to change and being challenged by these overwhelming numbers of Mongols. I want you to feel that. And the game will absolutely give that to you if that's what you want. We will wreck you if that's what you want. At the same time, if you're playing to be a tourist, you need to feel that you're challenged, but you just don't want a cakewalk. So the game needs to scale down to provide the right challenge, but still make your choices feel meaningful. If you can just cakewalk your way through every fight, even where the parts where Jin is sneaking around, it doesn't make sense anymore. Why would you do that?
Yeah.
So I mean that's good. I like to see that they're trying to balance in favor of gameplay and enjoyability.
Well, it was literally the same thing with you. You play games like Uncharted or God of War. They have that easy setting where instead of it just saying easy, it literally says "Give me a story." Like that's where you want to experience the game. Or you want to experience kind of just the story with a bit of the gameplay, whereas you go to medium and hard, and it's like, give me a challenge, fuck me up.
Yes, and then there's crushing, and then there's the brand new and incredibly painful brutal.
Yeah.
Wow, did I ever have
They should just call it impossible at that point.
Oh my god. I mean, I strolled through Brutal in the remasters, and I'm not Brutal, through Crushing in the remasters. I'm like, how bad could Brutal be? Wow. Jesus Christ. Snap my head back a full 6 inches. Okay, God of War. New Game Plus is coming. You're going to start with all your equipment. You're going to start with all your shit. Yeah, you're not going to start with some of your door-opening abilities.
Obviously, yeah.
Right, so anything plot-related that you get, you won't have, but like your armor, your weapons, etc., etc. And the difficulty will be harder. It will scale up. So, yeah, awesome. More God of War.
Yep, there's nothing wrong with that.
All the better. Halo Infinite.
Did we get anything on this?
Well, here's the thing. It's still being done by 343. We know that much. Aaron Greenberg, who's the head of marketing at Xbox. You remember when we saw it for the first time? Just the title. We saw nothing. We saw like the
It was they
troops.
were on the Halo.
Right.
Some normal looking troops. There was a warthog.
And the name came up.
Yeah.
And the first thing out of my mouth was, it's a games as a service game.
Yeah.
So someone asked Aaron Greenberg about it.
Is it a games as a service game?
Basically, exactly that. Because I'm not the only one who thought that. So he says, when he was asked, he said, it's a bigger, bolder vision, but the specifics of the game we're not ready to talk about yet. He says, this is the next Halo game, so think of it as moving from numbering to let's do something completely different. He said the community will play an active part in the game's development, and they will listen to community feedback to improve the overall experience. All of which says games as a service, but he did not say games as a service.
If that's what it ends up being, I feel so sorry for Halo fans that are going to be looking for something dedicated, because it's funny the way it's going now, because Bungie left Microsoft and then they made Destiny.
Right.
And then Halo tried to keep, or 343 took that moniker and they tried to make a couple more Halo games, and they didn't do all that well at it. So now they're just going to make a Halo Destiny. Or at least that's what I'm thinking is going to happen. And if that's what happens, then I feel sorry for you, because you're kind of missing out on your classic Halo game.
Here's a telling quote from Greenberg. The world has changed. You look at Fallout, Sea of Thieves. Gamers want to have access to stuff earlier. It's becoming a more service-based industry and a digital-first business. We're definitely thinking for Halo that way. I will let Chris Lee and the people at 343 give more specifics as to when and how, but they're eager to get players' feedback. So all of that, literally he name-checks Fallout, which 76 is now effectively a games as a service game.
Mm-hmm.
Sea of Thieves is like straight up.
Yeah, it was from the ground up. It was a games as a service.
Even though he didn't actually say that, it's hard to interpret it any other way.
Yeah, and Tron says, Halo will have seasons where at the end your Halo activities wipes your character in progression.
Mainkill just bought Dying Light Enhanced Edition on Steam for $19.75.
Yeah.
And they sucked.
Oh, when I was talking about the Halo games.
Okay, but he's talking about Dying Light, though.
Yeah, he likes Dying Light.
Does he? Halo games suck.
When I was saying the 343 ones, he's like, and they sucked.
Gotcha. Just making sure, because Dying Light, them's fighting words. So, that's why we don't have you on the couch anymore. That statement exactly. All right. Jump Force.
Yeah, there you go. Just confirm. 343 games sucked.
Jump Force. We're going to talk about Jump Force. So,
yes.
The fighting game has got Dragon Ball, Naruto, One Piece, Death Note characters. So the thing at the end, like we saw Goku, we saw Naruto, we saw Luffy, and then right at the end we saw Ryuk and we saw Light.
Yeah.
We're like, how the fuck does that work? Apparently it doesn't. So they are not playable characters in the fighting game.
Oh, he's an overseer.
Right. Maybe that's what's causing the fight, or however you want to justify it, but apparently they're NPCs, they are observers, they do not participate.
Okay.
Because I wouldn't want to fight Ryuk.
Nope.
And again, Light, it's like round one.
Yep. Done.
Fatality. End of game. So, Jump Force producer Koji Nakajima, he says the game is going to feature a story around this unique situation, and that's where Death Note comes into play, to kind of weave the story together. So Death Note is not going to have a fighting game character. So a character from.
I'm actually kind of surprised that they wouldn't at least put like Ryuk in there or something, like just as a representation for that. Right. But I guess if they're woven into the story enough, it'll kind of make sense as to whatever they're doing with it. But I mean, hey, it's going to be a crazy arena brawler based on shonen characters, so there's going to be a lot of crazy flashy action, and people are going to enjoy it.
I'll be interested. I'm sure it'll be amusing as hell. Nier Automata for Xbox, which is the Become as Gods edition.
Right.
So they announced that it's coming to Xbox June 26th.
If you have not played this game, Xbox fans, go fucking play it, because it is spectacular.
Yes. They say it's going to be all DLC and content, but interestingly enough, it's going to be digital only. You can't get it physically for Xbox.
I wonder if there's a licensing issue or something like that.
I think it's more that they don't think that they're going to sell enough to print them.
Oh, okay.
I mean, logically, they're not going to sell any in Japan. And in North America, it's nice to have, but I don't know how successful it's going to be. So we'll see. Kingdom Hearts 3... of course, we saw the bundle on the PS4. It's going to have like 1.5 and 2.5 and 2.8 final chapter prologue and 3 all in one. And that's for people like me. It's like I have nothing.
And now you have
Kingdom
everything.
I want everything. So Tetsuya Nomura, he says the game will release with a video that recaps Kingdom Hearts' entire overall story. It's going to be in 5 parts. It's going to be a few hours. And it's going to be, even though it's just an outline, because the story is so dense, it's still going to be hours. So the Japanese version is going to be posted online this month. It's going to be included in Kingdom Hearts 3 and on the Kingdom Hearts 3 website. And Nomura actually says he's putting equal efforts into both Kingdom Hearts 3 and into Final Fantasy VII Remake. So I'm hoping a little bit more on the remake side because he's.
Well, I was going to say 3 is more or less getting into the end part there. So yeah, I would hope that he'd be focusing more on 7 at this point.
You would hope. So he says he owes a lot to his fans who keep him motivated to keep on going creating. And of course, Kingdom Hearts releases January the 19th, 2019. Rage 2.
Oh yes, this was another one that got leaked.
I'm interested
before, and now that we've actually seen some gameplay and some information about it,
could be interesting.
I'm more on board with it this time.
Fun fact though, single player only. They took out the multiplayer aspect.
Interesting.
I mean, it makes sense from a Avalanche perspective, like Just Cause and whatnot.
Honestly, at this point, it's a bold move compared to a lot of the other games we've seen, where everything is about battle royale, games as a service, multiplayer, like all this interaction, and then
especially since the first one was co-op.
Yeah, exactly.
Or could be co-op. You didn't have to. It's going to pick up right after the end of the first game, but you don't need to play the first game to understand it. So if you
they'll recap that the satellite crashed or something, and that's about it.
I finished the first game. I honestly could not tell you. I remember you were in some kind of control room and something with satellites, and I don't remember why.
Well, there you go. That's how important the first game was.
Sure. So you don't have to play it to enjoy the second game. There's that. It's going to run at 60 frames per second on console, and Rage 2 designer Magnus Nedforce told Eurogamer, we've just focused on the best open-world single-player game we can make. I personally really believe you make single-player games really fantastic. So that's what we're focused on. I mean, that makes sense for Avalanche, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
It's
kind of what they do.
As long as they bring a little Mad Max into there.
Oh, it's there.
Oh man, that's so just the sound of the engine. Anyway, okay. Resident Evil 2. Hidden characters, Hunk and Tofu. They're coming back.
Right.
So we're gonna get those. The giant mutant alligator boss will also be back.
Yeah, it's funny because you'd said that earlier, and I was just like, why wouldn't it? It's a boss that's in the middle of the fucking game.
Right, you would think, and it's like an iconic boss. But Resident Evil 2 producer Yoshiaki Hirabashi, he went back and forth with his team. Apparently, they had concerns the alligator couldn't fit into the game, and they iterated several times on the design until they were able to finally make it work in a more photorealistic sense.
Couldn't fit in the game?
Well, in terms of, like, not like physically, like in terms of the look of it.
No, but I mean, it's zombies and cops, and it's ridiculous. Like, just stick a fucking alligator in there. Like,
maybe he hasn't seen what Resident Evil looks like. Lately,
yeah.
So, it's key because he's not applying this just to the alligator boss. He was saying that they had to start off with something that doesn't look like it's going to fit somehow with how the game looks today. Mm-hmm. But if you keep having lots of discussion, you get to the crux of what makes each element what it is. You can dig down and find the core idea and find a way to implement that in a new game. So he basically applied that to everything about how to make it work, how to make it look good in sort of the new redesigned version.
Right.
So that's good. Sekiro, which is kind of a surprise.
Yes, this was a very, very welcome surprise.
Yeah.
For both of us, because that Because even when the trailer was going, you were like, "Oh, is this Tenchu?" And I was like, "Oh, maybe it is. Who knows?"
Yep. Because it very much had a lot of the same sort of gameplay elements to it that Tenchu had.
Yeah, there's some weird monsters. Right. There was a grappling hook. It's a ninja-based combat. So
they're describing it, and the game is directed by Hidetake Miyazaki, and he is qualifying it as a third-person action-adventure game with RPG elements. So I guess kind of like what Horizon is. He says the game's protagonist plays the role of a hard-hearted warrior on a quest to recover his young lord and who seeks revenge. His name is Sekiro, which translates as the one-armed wolf, and it's set in the Sengoku period of Japan. Sengoku, Japan, pardon me. In Sekiro's Shadows Dies Twice, you are a disgraced and disfigured warrior rescued from the brink of death. Bound to protect a young lord who is the descendant of an ancient bloodline, you become the target of many vicious enemies, including the dangerous Ashina clan. When the young lord is captured, nothing will stop you on a perilous quest to regain your honor. Not even death itself. So that's a nice block of press release information. So late 1500s Sengoku Japan, brutal life and death combat, blah, blah, blah. Blending stealth, vertical traversal, and visceral head-to-head combat in bloody confrontation. So again, some nice PR speak there.
And it's funny when they have the title, Shadows Die Twice, it says not even death will stop you. I'm wondering, there's a little bit of that From Software in there and Souls-esque gameplay.
You never know.
Or if you're dead, you're not actually dead.
Right.
You're just kind of disabled for a bit until you get your humanity back or whatever.
So, let's see. There's apparently a variety of weapons besides what was shown in the trailer. There's a stealth mechanic. The game will release on PS4, Xbox One, and PC in 2019. It is no multiplayer, it's single player only, which is a deliberate choice, which is kind of a diversion from previous From Software games.
Yeah.
But they say that if they don't have to balance for multiplayer, for bosses, and for enemies, they can develop a much more robust game. So less limitations, more choices. And of course, traversal is completely different when you're exploring with the grappling hook is much more vertical.
Yeah, and that is probably a small slice of verticality,
right.
And it makes sense in that fucking game, unlike other games that we've played that are, vertically based.
Right, not naming any damnation. But I mean, I came out with it on the spot and I had to question it. But yeah, the original Tenchu game was made by From Software. So this kind of looks like their sort of Demon Souls is to Dark Souls as Tenchu is to Sekiro.
Yeah.
So we'll see. I'm interested to see that for a completely different reason than I am to play Ghost of Tsushima.
Yeah, exactly. Because it's going to scratch that itch of like some crazy ninja combat and stuff. But yeah, it's the unrealistic side of things, and it looks like it's going to be a ton of fun to play.
Okay. So on the Bethesda conference, we saw Starfield.
Yes.
Or we sort of saw Starfield.
They're brand new IP that they wanted to tell us nothing about.
We saw a planet, we saw a satellite / space station thing.
And then an explosion,
and a
time warp wave, some kind of thing that took out everything.
I'm assuming it's going to be like an X Beyond the Frontier thing or a Farscape thing where they end up in an alien galaxy, and who knows. But it's been rumored, apparently, for a long time. A year ago, on 4chan, they posted the title Starfield and some details. So, again, it's 4chan, grain of salt, but this was literally like a year ago. They were expecting it at last year's E3.
Mm-hmm.
So here's what they said at the time. They claimed that Bethesda has been working on a sci-fi open-world game in the same vein as Fallout. And they named Starfield, like they name-checked it. According to them, the game has been in early production since Fallout 3, but it only entered full production after the studio finished working on Fallout 4 DLC. It takes place, supposedly it takes place in the Fallout universe, just in the far future.
Okay, after they've recovered, obviously.
Yeah. I mean,
they've gotten to space travel again.
I don't know if that's necessarily a good thing or not. I mean, I don't think that's necessary. Just make the fucking game. Apparently, it's going to have 5 to 10 races, as well as space travel and a hub world. Some of the game worlds are apparently supposed to be randomly generated as a way for Bethesda to court Minecraft or sandbox game fans. I don't know about that. We'll see.
Yeah.
But that was a year ago, and he got like the name right and sort of what it is. Who's to say? That might be what we're looking at.
We called it on the couch while we were watching E3, Space Rim.
Space Rim. Well, some of us did. I think that sounds a little rude. I think a Space Rim sounds like a sex act you get on Venus.
Well, if it's more akin to Fallout, we can call it Space Out then.
Oh, see here, Telltale's working on a new game.
Oh, really?
Stranger Things.
Yes, that's right.
They're working on a brand new thing. Apparently, they have a new partnership with Netflix, and they say they'll be announcing details on some new projects, plural, later this year.
Because what that Stranger Things is, I don't know if they're making a proper Stranger Things like Telltale game.
I would imagine.
But their first iteration of it, because this came up with a whole, is Netflix getting into video games? They're making a Stranger Things Minecraft story mode chapter.
That's weird.
Based on Stranger Things.
That is also weird.
Yeah, so but that's one of their projects.
Right. But no, it's talking about Telltale, multiple projects referencing Netflix. I'm wondering if maybe some of the Netflix originals, there might also be Telltale games attached.
I could easily see that, because
I could see an Altered Carbon game.
Yeah, like there's so much room there for extra storytelling that doesn't quite fit comic books, but doesn't fit a full video game either.
Like, dark, maybe not 13 Reasons Why.
Wow, yes.
Hell, that game had a weird ending.
No kidding.
So, I mean, that's interesting. Just more Stranger Things development could be cool. Mm-hmm. Super Smash Brothers Ultimate.
Right.
So it's not going to have...
shook everyone on Tuesday.
Right. So it's not going to have Waluigi.
I'm so salty about that. I want Waluigi. He's in every other Mario game now.
I know. But one thing it will have is GameCube controller support.
Yes, and I'm very happy about that, because
Are you, though?
I am, because I refuse to play Smash Brothers unless I use a GameCube controller.
I fucking hate that controller, and apparently I'm the only one in existence that does.
It's not my favorite. Like, there's a lot of people who freak out and they're like, this is the greatest controller ever made. I'm far from agreeing with that. I just like it for Smash Brothers because that's what I've always played with, and that's how I know it best.
I guess if you're used to it, again, it's what you're used to, right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's this whole, like, Xbox versus PlayStation argument about stick orientation. The Division 2. We saw some of the first trailers for that. Looks like pretty much what we expect. Had raids. We talked about that. On the website, they dropped an interesting piece of information that I don't think was really brought up anywhere during the stage show.
Okay.
Literally, the write-up is on the website. Unlike anything before it, the Division 2's Washington, D.C. is a one-to-one representation of the city, making the game world more authentic than ever. The game's map offers up-close and personal views of landmarks, natural landscapes, neighborhoods, and enemy hideouts. If they're saying a one-to-one scale, and presumably they're talking about a portion of the city or a large portion of the city, or the whole city, that's a huge fucking map.
Well, I guarantee it won't be the whole city. Because
one, I would think
when they did the quick thing of like it goes to the map so you can see where all the radar is and everything like that. That was like the chunk that's around like Capitol Hill and the mall and everything like that. But that's still a very large portion of kind of the downtown business sector, and of course the Capitol Hill and all that stuff. So that's amazing that if they did one-to-one with that, that is going to give a lot of space to explore.
See, I don't even know, like off the top of my head, I don't even know how big Washington D.C. actually is.
I've
like
been
inside the Beltway.
I've literally been to the National Mall before.
Yeah.
And holy fuck, I had no concept. Like, you've seen presidential stuff when people gather on those lawns. There's like 4 sections kind of in front of the White House, or not Capitol Hill, and like they have all the museums up there and everything like that. Each one of those fields is like a football field.
Yeah, that's about right.
It's fucking ridiculous. It was way bigger than I thought it was. Like,
to be fair, it looks a lot less big when the fields are full of people for the inauguration.
But I've seen plenty of pictures and maps of it and stuff, and it's just like
that was a crowd size joke. Blew right past there. That's fine.
Either way,
know your audience. I guess
it's very impressive.
Yeah, I mean, if they do even a section of Washington D.C. at one-to-one, that's an undertaking. I don't know how the hell they're going to do that. We saw The Last of Us 2 in action for the first time.
Yep, it's one of the things we wanted to see, and we got it.
So a couple things. Ellie is confirmed to be the only playable character.
Okay.
So there's going to be new infected types. Neil Druckmann name-checked Joel during the presentation. Like there was an interview where they were on the couches. So he is going to be alive for some portion of the game.
Okay.
So there's rumors that Joel is dead and that's what's driving Ellie the whole time. Maybe not. But he's not going to be a playable character. He is alive for part of the game. I can't picture them going straight off the success that was The Last of Us and having no Troy Baker, and like I can't picture that at all.
Well, and a beloved character in general. It's like, no, it starts out, no, he's fucking dead. Don't worry about it. It's like, what? We spent the entire game with him.
Okay, new infected types. We said that the story is going to focus on humanity doing the best they can to get back to normal, despite obviously the situation being like completely out of control. Skip that. Smarter AI. They say obviously you have the prone ability and the character dragging you out of cover.
Right.
That's going to be a thing that the AI will do. They know to look under things. Since prone is now an ability you have, the AI will look...
It's funny that we're in 2018 now, this deep into video games, and we finally got AI that actually checks under beds and buses and like for hiding people. Like...
It happened in a couple of Metal Gears. We're already to that point, but yeah. Like it's something that a lot of people had said kind of breaks immersion. If what's going on? But no. So they're gonna look under objects. Presumably, if there's something that alerts them, it may not be like if they're on their standard patrol. Who knows? I can't picture them checking under everything all the time.
Yeah, no. It'll be when they're in like alert mode or something.
So here's the thing: the gameplay demo was actually an actual demo. It was not pre-scripted. It was not pre-rendered. It was so good that Eidos Montreal's studio head David N. Fossey called it fake. He said he thought it was all scripted gameplay.
Yeah.
So he tweeted this out, and this was rapidly shared out by Naughty Dog animator Jonathan Cooper, laughing at it, saying, it's so good, he thinks it's fake. So huge backlash from the public. They all upset with him.
Yeah.
The tweet was deleted. Neil Druckmann took to Twitter to confirm, yes, it was 100% real, wasn't faked. And Fossey came back on Twitter to apologize, and he said, "Hi, Naughty Dog fans, please don't be tough on me. Just bad wording from a French-speaking person, not from a French."
I was going to say, from a
French-speaking person. Always been a big fan of Uncharted and The Last of Us games, played all of them, and The Last of Us 2 is on my list, and what Naughty Dog does is a ref to me. I'm assuming a reference point.
I guess, yeah.
On Twitter, there's limited. He says, sorry for this situation. So he's claiming ignorance because of a language barrier. I will choose, in the spirit of charitability, to just acknowledge that and say, sure, we'll call it that.
And thank you very much for that cheerleader, Damon Blade. Thank
you, Damon Blade.
That's
Quack.
Awesome.
Space duck.
Yeah, such a majestic creature.
Quack.
All right. Thanks again for that, and hope you're enjoying the stream so far.
All right, last one. We Happy Few.
Yes.
So obviously,
I have been waiting for a long damn time.
Yeah, and luckily you're gonna get it because they announced D3. Microsoft bought up a bunch of studios, one of which was Compulsion Games, who are the makers of Contrast and now We Happy Few. So they bought We Happy Few. The game was in development for PS4. The game will still come out for PS4.
Yeah.
I can bet you're not going to see any more PS4 games in a Compulsion.
No.
But
it was just that deep into it that they're like, yeah, we'll put this one out for PS4, but that'll be it.
Yeah, so We Happy Few 2, probably not.
Yeah.
But it's coming out on August the 10th for PS4 as well as all the other... it's going to be version 1.
Well, I've literally had the beta of it sitting in my Steam for the past 2.5 years, I think. Yeah. So I'm glad that I'm going to actually be able to finally play it.
There you go. All right. So, because it was such a news-packed show...
Oh, actually, because we're going into, like, the final say there or whatever. I just want to bring one other one. I don't know if you caught it, because I don't know if you caught up on all the Nintendo... Sure. On all the Nintendo stream.
Which part?
From E3. So,
no, I mean, which part are you saying?
This little game called Daemon X Machina. Or I think that was what it...
Yep.
Yeah, I think that was what it was.
Deus Ex Machina, but Daemon X Machina?
Yeah.
Okay.
And... basically, I saw this trailer and was like, this looks really fucking interesting, especially for being what appears to be a brand new IP.
Sure.
It literally looks like Breath of the Armored Core. It is
Breath of the Armored Core.
It
How
is
does that work?
beautifully colored, cell-shaded, unique-looking gameplay and mechs, but it looks like an Armored Core gameplay style. So you have like a bunch of like 3 to 4 story tall mechs flying through the air, missiles and lasers flying everywhere, fighting gigantic robots.
When does that come
I have no idea.
See, it might give me a reason to dust my Switch
off. It's a bit. I think it's a bit early to kind of tell. I don't think they had a release date for it, but I want to find more information on it because I just saw this the other day. And suffice to say, I'm pretty excited because I've been missing Armored Core in my life.
Oh, definitely.
And I think the other thing that just came out today or yesterday is that From Software officially said, yes, we are working on a new Armored Core, but it's in early development. So we're probably not seeing another Armored Core for at least 2 to 3 years.
Yeah. And Damon Blade says he got to play that game.
Which one?
Damon X Machina?
Oh, okay.
Is that actually the case?
Maybe they ported it to the Switch then. I have no idea.
No, I think he said he got to play it. There's a few mecha games coming. Not enough, Damon Blade.
Yeah, not enough. I need more mechs in my life.
Still waiting for my goddamn Armored Core game that apparently From Software has been developing for the last few years in secret.
Yep.
Maybe that's a PS5 game.
Could be.
It would make sense. It would make sense since we've gone a whole fucking generation without them. God damn it. Yes, I need more.
But anyways, yeah, you should go watch the trailer because it looks fucking awesome. And if it's out, it's out. Then
I don't know if it is, but yeah, if it is, you might not see me for the next couple of days. Oh, all right. So we're going to talk about the big ticket, and we're going to combine it with the checkpoint and the options menu because it is that time.
Yeah.
Because we have so much news leading out of E3, all the E3 wrap up, all the E3 fallout, and not just Fallout 76, but people getting angry about
just
things.
in general.
Yep. We're going to talk about one of the new initiatives that is from Joseph Gordon-Levitt, his company, Hitrecord, or Hitrecord, which I think is probably the way it's pronounced.
It is, because in the logo it actually has a record button
REC,
in it. Yeah.
Right? You know, Hitrecord, but it's like, it also says Hit Record, so it's like, yeah. Anyway.
It's twofold.
Yes. So this is an initiative that Ubisoft is partnering with Hitrecord for. And during Ubisoft's presentation, they announced their collaboration with them. And Joseph Gordon-Levitt came out, and he was all smiles and cheer, and he was talking about their creative collaboration. So Ubisoft, for now the new Assassin's Creed Odyssey, they're going to enlist, they're going to crowdsource from fans.
For Assassin's Creed or for, what should we call it?
Oh, pardon me. It was for Beyond Good and Evil.
I was going to say, did they
sorry.
put that in Assassin's Creed
No.
also?
Like, I mean, you never know. But no, it was a partnership for Beyond Good and Evil 2. Excuse me, not Assassin's Creed. So Beyond Good and Evil 2, they're looking for like graffiti for certain soundtracks, for anti I don't remember the name of the group, but any sort of propaganda.
Yeah,
all related to Beyond Good and Evil 2.
Pirate logos, I guess, to like put on the sides of ships and stuff like that.
Yeah,
just like little bits of art here and there.
Art, some jingles, some music, things like that. So anyway, their creative collaboration platform that Hitrecord is known for. So fans create art assets and they create music, and then from that, all of the submissions, some of it is selected to be put into the game, and they're paid for their work fairly.
Right.
Now I say fairly not because I doubt that statement, although I do, but I say fairly because it's literally that's how they say it. They pay fairly.
Yeah.
So their interpretation of what being paid fairly for artwork is.
Yeah, and have you, like, I know you have like a bunch of research on this stuff.
Oh, yes.
Do we have hard numbers on something that's fair? Or
Well, I mean, I don't know what's fair, but let's talk about what they're offering, and it doesn't sound fair to me.
Okay.
So immediately there has been, like, from artists, people who are pushing back against spec work, and that's what they're labeling this as, just another way to get spec work. They say that this is effectively no different than just asking for work on spec rather than actually having a proposal or just showing your portfolio and hiring an artist. Right. So Joseph Gordon-Levitt, seeing some of the blowback, he put a big lengthy post on their website, and he says, "When a project makes money, I firmly believe that the people who worked on it should get paid. However, we never presented Hitrecord. I'm going to keep saying
I think it's when you see it, you say record, but
record.
when you say it, it's like, no, it's supposed to be record.
Because I'm Bruce Dickinson. We never presented Hitrecord as a means for professional artists to earn their living. So instantly they're targeting not professional artists who cannot make a living on their own. They're targeting people just like you and me who want their big break. Well, people like you. I'm not so much of the artist, but So he says, that said, we just don't pay scraps. Some people make hundreds, some people make thousands, a few people have made tens of thousands. Oftentimes, a finished product will include a large number of tiny contributions, and those contributors can receive tiny paychecks. And we pride ourselves on being very upfront and transparent about all of this. For this partnership with Beyond Good and Evil 2, Hitrecord is only working on certain elements and parts of the full game, so profit, as we'd usually define it, doesn't apply. Instead, Hitrecord.
Yeah, think about it for
God damn it, really, it's like mental block. Hitrecord, they've set aside a community payment sum of $50,000 as an item in their budget. That amount will be spread across all the finished songs and visual assets that we deliver to Ubisoft Montpellier for inclusion in the game. So, first of all, they have a minimum of 9 different categories. Potentially, there could be multiple submissions from each one. There's like 4,000 or 5,000 submissions on their site already.
Mm-hmm.
So $50,000 among even a small fraction of that does not go a long fucking way.
No, it doesn't.
No. And I mean, if you're talking about a piece of art that's going to be permanent in the game, that's going to contribute to the game, a game that's going to sell for $60, has millions and millions of dollars behind it in the budget, that's a very tiny slice of pie. So, couple other points. They say the artists get to keep their rights to the work if they participate, although they have no control over how it will ultimately be used.
Okay.
And that's a key point, because one of the unusual and one might say defining aspects of Hitrecord's model is that not only can you make art, but you can take some other person's art without their permission
and remix it.
Right. So if that's a piece of artwork, that's a song, that's like a jingle, you can take it, remix it, and suddenly you are entitled to a piece of that person's success. You know, so you will get a fraction of that if the final version contains your work.
Mm-hmm.
You'll get part of that, even if potentially someone else did most of the work. They have some kind of way to change that ratio of who gets paid what, but I don't know how well that's going to work if you have like 3, 4, 8, 10 people working on a single piece.
Well,
to bring it to the conclusion.
I would have to say that like that would be like the worst case scenario. I don't think you're going to get a piece of art that gets remixed 5, 6, 7 times.
Probably music would be more likely.
Yeah, music has a better chance of that because they're like, oh, I like this, but it needs to be a little more upbeat or something like that. Whereas a piece of art, it's pretty straightforward what was kind of changed and you can only change it so much before it just becomes a giant mess.
Yeah. See, I don't know about you, but I don't draw. I'm not an artist in the conventional sense.
Mm-hmm.
But the thought of someone coming in, taking my work, changing it to make it better, that rubs me wrong on a visceral level. Like on its own, aside from all the spec work, just the ability you lose control of that art, that bothers me.
I think that there should be at least be something in place to have some kind of control over it. And I don't mean control as in, make it so black and white, but make it so that you're aware when someone's remixing, you're aware what they're using it for, and you can at least have some say. It's like, look, I uploaded this originally, so I want some say in this, because it could be one of those situations where, say, I upload a pirate logo for like the side of a ship or something like that, and I upload it to the website.
It's a nice digital treat.
And
$3.
Yeah. And then all of a sudden, say, because the monkey logo is like their kind of core logo for it. So it's like you make like a monkey thing on a pirate flag or something, something random like that.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, somebody comes along and say, "Oh, that looks really cool, but I want to add a little more attitude." So they add like an eye patch and a cigar in its mouth or something like that. And all of a sudden, Ubi's like, "Oh, I like that logo. Let's use that."
So is it going to be 50-50?
Yeah, do you go in and then you have these judges saying, well, he changed 20% of the picture, the eye patch and cigar aren't done very well, so that'll kind of lower it a little, so we'll pay this much out. Like, where's the line in there? Like, how are they choosing, like, how to fairly pay each person that's a part of that remix at that point.
Yeah, and that formula for how they determine that, they don't go into it all. Like, they don't describe how they judge that, or, like, is there going to be, like, a fixed amount? Is it going to be 50-50? Is it going to be a straight split? Like, they don't talk about that.
Because it's one thing, if I dove in and I put one piece of art in there, it was a propaganda poster or something like that, and they said, well, you like your poster, we're going to pay you, $10 or $15 for it, or something random like that.
Yeah.
and that's all I wanted out of it, that's perfectly fine. I'm part of the game. They paid me fucking $15 for something I spat out in like 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And it's in the game, and I get to like kind of enjoy it and stuff like that. That's one thing. I think it depends on the mindset and what you're actually trying to get out of the situation too. Because we have everyone from people that really can't do much, like they do one type of art and maybe they don't even do it that well, but it kind of works for what they're going for, and all of a sudden they get a piece in the game, and they get a bit, a little bite of money out of that. That's fine. But then you have other people who are straight up professional, and then they're doing this on the side too, and they choose an orchestral track, or they do a big mural or something that's absolutely gorgeous, and then all of a sudden they only make $50, and then it's like, well, there's a huge discrepancy between the guy who doesn't do this professionally, barely has any talent, versus the guy who is actually working professionally, has loads of talent, and then there's this very small difference between the money they're actually getting paid.
Here's the other thing, and this is something they didn't hit on enough. So anything that's sold, half of the profit goes to Hitrecord, and then the other half is what's divided.
So does that mean that ultimately there's actually only $25,000 going to artists?
I'm assuming that it's like $100K, of which like $50K is basically going to be paid to them.
Okay.
I mean,
because the way they stated it earlier, you said we cut out $50,000 to put towards this project. So it sounded like they have here's $50,000, and then half of that is going to disappear.
I'm assuming that whatever Ubisoft pays them is going to be like they're going to pay out to these other people like half the amount essentially. But they're not doing this as a non-profit. They're in it to make money.
Oh, absolutely.
And the product is everyone else.
Yeah.
Right? So half of the project's profits are theirs right off the top. They skim 50%. Everything else, they'll like portion out however many different ways that
it's really unfortunate that it's half. I mean, it should at least be graded on how much money's going into it, what are the assets, like all that. There should be more consideration than just 50%. Over. Like
it's an interesting number. Like you and I have both had experience with a very specific company who we will not name for legal reasons. Right off the top, it's like whatever happens, if we make money, half of it is yours, half of it is ours, and then their job was to sell it. This, they're kind of working the other way. They already have a client, and they're just looking for the right people to match up.
Yeah,
but
exactly.
It does not sound like a traditional model, and certainly not for anyone who's looking to break into the industry. Like, this is a predatory scheme from my perspective.
And Maimko, it's not 100% guaranteed, but my take on it is why Hitrecord is involved at all is the fact that Ubisoft has been working on this game for so long, and I believe that they're behind probably in some of the art assets and music department because they only have so many people working for their company. So they're basically crowdsourcing stuff for their game so that they don't have to put their own time and money and effort into it, because it's at $50,000 or $100,000 out of the millions and millions of dollars that they're putting in, tens of millions of dollars they're putting into this fucking game. That is nothing. That is like taking a dime out of your pocket and saying, here, find me some art, and it costs them almost nothing, and then all of a sudden they get this swath of art back from Hitrecord.
Okay, here's the thing. I don't necessarily agree with that, the way you phrase it. I don't think time is the issue. I think the issue is money, because right now, if they can get some artwork on the cheap from people who are just, they're very talented but unknown, they can easily do that. And they've been trying to make Beyond Good and Evil 2 for literally 10 years. I think that it's not like Splinter Cell. They don't have like 1 million people who are going to buy it right off the hop. I think this is a big risk for Ubisoft. They're trying to manage their budget. I think, honestly, this is just a way to get cheap labor.
Okay, so you only think it's one of those parts. I said time and money. You're just saying it's money.
I think it's straight up money. Because, like, time, if they needed more time to do things with their own artists, they would just take that time. Because it's been so long, and they haven't put a date on it yet. I think it's straight up money. Because
I just thought the time factor, just for the simple fact that it has been this long, and they've shown it a few times now, and people are going to get to that point, that breaking point of where we've reached it ourselves with certain games where we're like, I don't fucking care anymore. It's done.
Look at how long, like, Kingdom Hearts 3, The Last Guardian, like...
Kingdom Hearts, to be fair, has a rabid fan base, though, compared to some other...
Maybe
but something, a prime example for me, anyways, is Crackdown.
Yeah.
I'm at the point where I'm just like, you know what? Fucking bring it out, or I don't care. I am so...
Yeah.
Like on the other side of that fucking game now that it's like, if it comes out and it's fucking amazing and like, holy shit, this is just like mind-altering, amazing gameplay, and like they have a crazy good storyline and stuff, I'll be like, oh, okay, that's cool. I'm glad that they made something out of it. But if it comes out to like, you know, kind of an average score and they don't really change the mold on anything, I'm just really like, they had their time.
I honestly don't think that's a consideration here with Ubisoft. Like, if the game gets made, which we're to the point where it's going to get made, like it's taken them a long time to get this point. I think, honestly, it was just a budget consideration. And to be frank, I don't think they anticipated as much of a backlash as they've actually had. Because when you think about it, right, you have artists out there. Hitrecord's model, right? You have people who buy their own software, they buy their own tools, you know, they make all this stuff hoping for a chance to get discovered. So all of the cost that it takes to, like all that time as well, like the man hours it takes to create, all that is taken on by the artist. So all of that cost shifts from the studio to the artist. And if they get picked, great. If they don't, though, right? That's all that time, all that effort, licensing costs, money, whatever, wasted.
Been there, done that.
Right. I'm like, how many times, right?
Yep.
So you think about it. So if you were to hire an artist, you know, just an artist, make some like background artwork for this world, right? You sit down, you talk about it, you do a few storyboards, you find out like the direction they want to go, you do some art, they go, that one, I don't like that, I don't like that. You go back, you work, you iterate.
Yeah, exactly.
And they pay for all of that time that you fail. You don't immediately come to the end result. And as you improve and improve, eventually you get your finished piece of artwork. So all of that time that it takes to get there is paid for. All of the software licensing costs are paid for. The cost to like put a PC on your desk in the office and run that PC and like health benefits and, you know, breaks and vacation time, all of that money they have to pay.
Yeah.
And eventually they might get what they want and they might not. They might fire the guy after like 6 months, a year and say, you suck. Whereas this way, you have a bunch of guys, you shift all of this cost onto them, they make, you know, 3,000, 5,000 pieces, and then you can just pick and choose and only pay those. So you pay for the end result. Even if you paid 1-to-1 what you'd pay an artist for that one piece of work, they'd still be way ahead of the game. So
ultimately what it comes down to is I think it's one of those situations we have to understand what their business model is and what you're actually putting in versus getting out of it. A prime example that we've seen many, many times before, because we're, 10, 11 years into it, is YouTube.
Right.
There's some people who, from day one, they go onto YouTube expecting to have, you know, PewDiePie type level of if I just stay dedicated to it and I make videos, people are going to love me and I'm going to get all the big advertisement bucks.
You're saying that doesn't happen? 'Cause what the fuck are we doing here?
I don't know.
If that doesn't happen,
I just don't know anymore. But no, that's the problem. Is I think you have to put in as much effort that you think you're gonna get like out of it for being beneficial. So what I would do, because I have signed up for it, and what I would do is I would literally fire off a bunch of quick little, you know, pieces of art and stuff like that did not take me 8, 10, 12 hours to create and stuff like that. And if they get picked, cool.
Yeah.
And then I get like a couple bucks from it or something like that. Whereas the other end of the spectrum is you're going to have people who are like, oh, this is going to be my favorite game. I want to be a part of this history. And then they're going to go in and they're going to write a song or they're going to create this piece of art and they're going to spend a week creating it.
Yeah.
And then it doesn't even get picked, or it gets picked and then they get paid $50 for it. And they're going to feel completely just sacked by that whole experience.
Right.
You have to go into it, I think, just with the right mindset. I'm not saying it's the best situation, because they could make it more fair and they could go back and rework some of that stuff. But hey, if they have a business model that works for them, they're going to run with it, because they are ultimately a business.
I mean, it would be good for an unknown guy. It's a feel-good story. And I think, honestly, if it's handled correctly and none of this backlash would happen, it would have been a good PR thing for Ubisoft. Oh, this guy, he loved Beyond Good and Evil 2. Now his song's in the game. Here he is on stage. We're going to trot him out, and he's going to wave.
And you never know. There could be one of those situations where literally the guy only got paid $100 for a song, but Ubisoft saw the talent, and they saw his resume and stuff like that, and they were like, oh, this guy's actually good. Maybe we should just hire him, and then he gets his kind of cut from that, or his break from that. But that's, of course, going to be incredibly rare if it happens at all.
Yeah.
But again, on the other side of that, if somebody fires off a few pieces of art and all of a sudden 2 or 3 of those things get picked up, even though he only gets paid X amount of dollars for it, he can also, again, this is kind of shitty because it's like working for exposure or whatever, but
which is just
shitty. But
really,
if it's one of those things you don't put all your time and effort into it, and it still gets kind of picked up and put in the game, that is literally something you can add to your resume when you're applying to a video game company. Like, look, I didn't create a video game, but I have art in a published AAA title, which actually goes a long way when you're applying to work at a company like that.
Tron says Hitrecord just seems like paying artists with exposure with extra steps. Just
with a Scotia money in there too.
Yes.
But
I think I like the original form of the joke because it does seem like slavery with extra steps. Yeah.
But ultimately, just having applied for video game companies before, a lot of the time, anything that is published in a AAA title game, especially a AAA, not just an indie game, that actually goes a long way on your resume. So it's that kind of catch-22 of like, sometimes exposure is a necessity, unfortunately.
Maybe. It's just a really, and I hesitate to use this term for a company that I do love as much as I do love Ubisoft. It just seems scummy. And to have a company like Ubisoft institutionalize this practice, this spec work as an acceptable thing and mainstreaming it, that bothers me a lot.
And it's unfortunate. It reminds me of the situation that they, I think we were talking about Microsoft a few weeks ago, where they were going to get volunteers to run their phone lines, and they were just going to give them Xbox points and free games and stuff. That is literally kind of the same situation. You're getting work for almost no value.
Except then, like, all of their work, like, they'd be paid for their work, but this is like, maybe you might not even get that much.
Yeah. So it's kind of that same situation, and it is kind of scummy just because you go with something like Ubi or Microsoft.
Yeah.
These are gigantic worldwide companies that are making hundreds of millions of dollars a year.
Right.
I would have no problem or very little problem with someone who did a Kickstarter for an indie game and their total value to make their entire game is like $30,000 or something like that, and they would use a process like that. I would be much more on board with that than Ubisoft, who's just like, they're already spending $100 million making this game, and they're just like, oh, here's $100,000 to throw to the peasants. Like, it's really unfortunate that such a big company chose to do something like this.
Yeah.
Whereas it would just be way more acceptable if it was an indie brand of some kind.
I mean, it would be a lot more palatable to me. Like, right now, just the way this whole thing played out, it just feels like Ubisoft is trying to save a buck, and they're trying to bank on the exposure of Joseph Gordon-Levitt to do it. And I don't like his company model at all. If he was non-profit, like he made no money at all, and it all went to the creator, then that's great.
Or
it's
if it was profit to pay for just the service itself, so it's like, more of like a 20/80 or something like that. That would be more acceptable. But the fact that across the board it is 50-50 no matter what, I don't like that model. I think there needs to be some reconsideration there.
Again, it seems predatory because people, obviously this is aimed at the desperate unknown artist who has talent but is not broken out for whatever reason. And, they're going to just, people like that, they're going to create 5, 6, 10 pieces, just shotgun effect trying to get exposure. And a game like Beyond Good and Evil that has this kind of high level exposure among game players, this could be their big break. So it's going to victimize these people who are by nature optimistic and hardworking and talented, and instead of giving them a showcase, they're going to prey upon them and give them a nice hard lesson in the realities of business.
Well, and like I said, it's that catch-22. Sometimes if this is your only, like, you have an impressive resume and you have all this stuff, but you don't have that thing that says, oh, I've been in a AAA game or something like that.
Right.
Then that's just one way you have to go about getting it on your resume. It's not the only way, but if they make it that easy that it's free and it's in your face kind of situation, people are going to try it.
So Damon Blade says only a big company could really do this, and it's better than trying to find some people on the internet. And I would dispute that in 2 ways. First, you can find literally thousands of artists on DeviantArt and go, hey, I've seen your portfolio, I want to hire you. Or Yeah, actually, I think it was.
It was probably on Fiverr too. Like
I was going to say
you can probably get people to draw shit on Fiverr.
Our good friend, moderate-sized Steve, now left the damn province.
Yep.
he had mentioned on Twitter. He mentioned, "Oh, No Beard.
Oh, yes.
No Beard. You've rated us
Beard.
literally at the end of our show. But we thank you anyway.
We're deep in the discussion of.
We are very much. Oh, and thank you.
Oh. Thanks a lot for the follow and the raid. This is awesome. Well, welcome to the end of near the end of the stream.
There's too many people on DeviantArt.
Well, that you have your pick of the litter. Then
that's why you go, hey, we're hiring artists. Give us your resumes, and then people can look through resumes.
And
that's
just to catch everyone up on it, we were just talking about Ubisoft using Hitrecord and Joseph Gordon-Levitt to source some, quote unquote, fairly paid for artwork and music.
Right. So anyway, moderate-sized Steve.
Yeah.
Who's now been rebranded Captain Quench. So he says, he talks about Fiverr, right? People, this is exactly the same thing, but I'm like, even on Fiverr, you get paid first.
Yes. Because it's a marketplace.
Right.
Yeah.
So, you're selling work cheap, but again, you're getting paid up front, and it's not like people just go, oh, I don't like your stuff, so I'm not paying you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So it's literally a transaction. There are feedbacks. There are systems in place to prevent exactly that. So if it was a Fiverr situation, even then that would be better, I think, than this.
Yeah.
So I just have problems with this, just from a logistic and almost a moral standpoint, really. And the remixing is a whole other thing I have a problem with. But,
the other part of it, too, is only a big company could do that. It's like, well, technically, even if you're a small company, you have less people, but you could still put your time into looking at Fiverr or DeviantArt. Or if I had a small indie game company and there's only 3 of us, I bet you I could still go to Hitrecord and be like, hey, I want to source some art through you guys or something like that. Not to say that I would do that, but again, it's more, I would be more accepting of that just because the budget is so much fucking lower for something like that because they have to penny pinch, unlike Ubisoft, who is literally spending hundreds of millions of dollars.
Yeah, granted, I think that makes it less scummy because literally, if your company is so small, your team is like 5 guys.
Yeah,
that's different.
You literally you got your Kickstarter, and here's your $30,000. Make a game like that.
That I could understand. Yeah, but still, and it's kind of weird that sort of my problem with this scenario is changed by the fact the company is so big. It just seems so much more egregious, I guess.
And but again, you can only go so far with that because it's business. It ultimately comes down to its business. And if business can save $100,000, $500,000 on art resources, they're gonna fucking do it.
And it's the same argument about loot boxes and microtransactions, right? If the market will bear it, then it will survive.
Because as we've seen, and a lot of companies are really like, we gotta have loot boxes because it costs so much to make games. It costs a lot of money to make games, but if they can save that $100,000, that is more money in their business.
But here's the unexpected casualty from this, and this is kind of some of the professional artists' problems that even if this is a relative unknown that gets chosen, he makes some money, even if it's a fair amount of money, it's not going to be up to the same level as a professional artist, and the casualty is that it devalues artwork as a commodity. Like you always hear artists complain, do artwork for me. Oh, well, here's the price. Well, no, can you do it for free just for the exposure, right? It's like that's a constant struggle, and you don't get that with like a dentist.
Well, because you don't want to fuck up your teeth.
Well, yeah, why is it always the artists, the writers, all these ones in a creative profession that get victimized this way, not like a plumber?
Well, through my experience, ultimately what it comes down to is that it is a product after the fact rather than having a product up front. You go to a store, you pick up a tool like an electric drill or something like that.
Sure.
That tool is physically there. It is built. It exists. It is in your hands. You walk it to the cash register and you pay for it right then and there. With an artist, a lot of the times what happens, or at least in my artscape of working in logo design and art, like creating characters and stuff like that, that stuff, the prime example right there, that stuff does not exist up front. So literally what you are doing is you are putting in time and more time and all that effort, and by the end of everything, I don't like it. Well, okay, great. So I'm out 10 hours, 12 hours, 20 hours, and you didn't pay anything for it.
Yeah, so, I mean, that's exactly what you want to avoid, right? That's why you have like portfolios and whatnot. But I mean, it's like you're selling a skill as opposed to a physical object,
and which is incredibly hard compared to, hey, I've got a box of this stuff. You pay per unit.
So, like, if I paid a guy like to shingle a roof,
you
know, sure, my roof might be shingled, but depending on who I pick, it could be a nightmare or it could be perfect.
Yeah, but ultimately, it's if you took roofing as an example, you like, oh, I heard you're a good roofer. Do my roof. Okay. Does your whole roof, and you're like, oh, it's a little off kilter. I don't like it. He's not going to go back and pull all the shingles off the roof or anything like that. He's going to walk away and be like, well, I got fucked.
Yeah.
But you still got a roof out of it.
You got a roof, but you still have to pay him, right? He could sue you.
Yeah, well, artists can sue too, but we don't.
That's just it, though. I mean, I think it's a lot, and I mean, it's a double standard, right?
Yeah.
Because it is such a subjective medium, sometimes people have this impression that, you know, you can get away with, oh, well, I don't like it, so I can't pay you.
That's pretty much the main part of it, is that it's like, huh, you're an artist, whatever. You don't even have to think to do that. It's like, well, yeah, actually we do. That's why we're artists, and you're not.
So this is exactly... Because
not everyone can do that.
Right. So this is exactly the thing that artists have to deal with. And when you have a situation where art becomes a commodity, like a marketplace they get to pick from, and then they pluck two things out of the throng of unpaid labor. Like literally, you know, if an artist arrived at the end result of all of his iterative progressions, like he got the design he wanted, it took him like 5 hours, right?
Yeah.
The first time, we'll just say hypothetically, and then you have like 5,000 people who did the exact same thing, took them also 5 hours.
Yep.
You get the benefit of like 25,000 man hours as opposed to 5 you know, man hours.
Yeah.
Like, and you only have to pay for 5 man hours.
And here is how you kind of more or less fix that, but they would never do it because they wouldn't make nearly as much profit off of that, is you kind of turn it a bit into a Fiverr situation. You make it a marketplace. When I put my art on Hitrecord, I have my little marketplace front. I like, here's my 10 pieces of art. They cost this much per unit or combo of this much. That's how it should technically be run, because that is fair to the artist, because they are charging what they want to, not what Hitrecord or anyone else wants to.
But I mean, I guess that makes sense, but ultimately it's still the same thing. Like, you're making stuff. Well, hopefully it's for yourself and you're selling it.
Because you're choosing the value of the art. Because I can put up a piece of art and say it's $5. I can say it's $1,000.
Yeah, and not only are you choosing
they don't have to buy
art,
it at that point.
But not only are you choosing the art, you're choosing like the thing that you're creating. It's not like targeted at a specific product.
It's much more beneficial for the artist at that point. It's a little more like Fiverr because it's a marketplace. It's not just here's a pool of stuff, and then you just pick the ones you want, and then it just leaves everyone to drown, basically.
And you know what? If it was simple as that, like Hitrecord was just, oh, here's a bunch of stuff, and you can choose from it, like DeviantArt effectively is, but without like a built-in marketplace. I'd be fine with that, but they're asking for targeted submissions. You know, they're asking for people to take that risk on and that cost on, and I think it just bothers me. Like, why is it always gonna have to be the artist that gets victimized this way?
Because it's been like that for years and years and years.
Jesus Christ,
it's really unfortunate.
Yeah, but I mean, just I think also the fact that it was just glossed over during the presentation. Oh, this is great, you know, all for the fans, and then they're completely unprepared for this backlash. Like, how did they not see this coming?
Well, I mean, that's the whole thing, is they were hoping for the best of it. They hit them with the flash and the flare up front.
Yep.
And then just kind of hope that people are so kind of stunned and shocked by this amazing thing that just happened that there isn't going to be any lashback from that. But it's exactly what happened.
Yeah,
people said, wait a minute.
Right.
This is different. I need to think about this. And I'm kind of glad that they did, because typically this type of situation does get kind of just washed over and nobody really gives it a second thought, like loot boxes.
Yeah, well, I mean, that one I think people had an issue with right away. And I mean, when I heard this, I'm like, this is a good thing? Like, how is this? I had immediately going over to my mind, like, people are going to have problems with this.
It is an interesting situation, but it needs severe retooling that will not happen because it is ultimately a business.
Well, as long as the number of people that submit stuff is more than people who are complaining about it.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Because if your marketplace dries up and nobody used to do it, obviously the business fails then, and they retool it or they just go under. And
somehow I don't think we're going to have as many people complaining about this as they were about David Bowie during the Infinite Warfare trailer. So sad but true. I mean, people...
it's way easier to just click a button, a downvote, and that's it. So yeah. you're not going to have that.
Well, whatever. We'll see. I'll probably still end up buying the game and liking Ubisoft, but I could be angry about it as I do it.
Yeah, they're not EA.
Luckily. All right, folks, that brings us to the end of another episode. This has been Digital Fiasco episode 31. If you like what we do here, please hit the follow button. Make sure to tell us what you think. Hit us up on Twitter at digital_fiasco. You can ask some questions. You can tell us what you want to see next. Even if you think Joseph Gordon-Levitt is a great businessman.
Technically, he is. He's a millionaire. We're not. So
that's true, but that's more for his acting than his business sense.
Oh, I'm sure he's made plenty of cash off of...
More for his resemblance to Bruce Willis, I think. Because that Looper, that was super successful.
Yep.
Super successful. Anyhow, we'll be back tomorrow night with not Comic Sans. We're going to probably do some Jack versus State of Decay 2. I'm going to start playing that, and we'll see the Ballad of Sad Karen, The Legend of Karen's Gold. And coming on Wednesday for the very first time, Daniel Hewick and Jackson Miller will bring the 5 years of the Player's Guide podcast to Digital Fiasco. They'll be having Player's Guide Live starting at 7 p.m. Central Time this Wednesday, June the 20th. I'm looking forward to seeing that. It's going to be difficult.
It's always nice to see a new show, too. So
it's going to be difficult as hell for me to sit over there and hold my fucking tongue as those two go back and forth.
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, you have your mic, but you got to control yourself.
Certain shows I will chime in, but mostly my role, I think, is going to be on-the-spot internet research. I'm not going to actually join the discussion unless they invite me. Although they did say there's a discussion they want to have about androids that I should be a part of.
Look at that.
Oh, what's this? FYI, I just started Wolfenstein. See? God damn it. Am I right? Oh, Wolfenstein The New Order. Such a hidden gem. Or it's not so hidden anymore, but at the time. But yes, hard difficulty isn't actually hard. Okay, come back and talk to me after you've played Wolfenstein 2.
Yeah, you want to have a crushing difficulty.
Yeah, because I walked into Wolfenstein, it's like hard difficulty. Oh yeah, it's like, okay, it's okay, whatever. I walk into Wolfenstein 2 and it's like, I'll just play it on normal for a story.
Yeah.
And I had to crank it down to easy.
Exactly. It's one of those games.
Yeah, so Wolfenstein 2, the difficulty level, a little bit different, but glad that you're finally getting into it. Thanks, No Beard. No Beard also says he really enjoyed himself over the week, and he wanted to make sure and let us know that during E3. So he's always welcome to come back.
Yep.
He actually would like to do some more couch work with us.
Absolutely. We're looking for that too. It's just again, job is very, very busy right now. Once that goes the wayside, we'll get back into our kind of normal flow of things.
Sure.
And
Oh, crank it up to Uber, No Beard. Go nuts. Come on. At least till you get to the second game where you can put it down to like Daddy Please Don't Hurt Me or whatever the lowest difficulty is. It's emasculating.
Yes, it really is.
Yes, because I really tried hard to power through, and it's like this is just not even happening.
It is brutal.
On medium, it's like, oh no. All right. Thanks for having us, folks. We've been Digital Fiasco. I'm Jack McBastard.
And I'm Dandr0id.
If you want to stick around for a couple seconds, we'll find someone here locally in Winnipeg to host and pass the love along. Till then, join us tomorrow for some State of Decay.
All right.
Good night, folks.
See ya.